but that he also has a traumatic brain injury. Police are asking he be held without bail until he can see a judge. The Supreme Court hears oral arguments today on whether President Trump can fire a Democratic member of the Federal Trade Commission. It's a high-stakes fight over control of what have been known as independent agencies.
The case has the court weighing whether to overturn a precedent dating to 1935. Back then, Franklin Roosevelt's attempt to fire a member of the Federal Trade Commission was rejected by the High Court, which said that Congress could require that there be cause for dismissal. Now, President Trump and his aides argue that view is unconstitutional, and they're counting on this conservative-leaning court to agree.
ABC's Stephen Portnoy reporting. Your money at this moment. The Dow is down 213 right now. We're at 47,741. Coming up, we've got warmer than normal temperatures all this week. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:02. A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
You gave years, maybe decades to your job. You showed up, worked hard, and planned for retirement. But now, the company's changed. Or maybe you've taken a buyout or been forced into early retirement. So, what happens next? I'm Jeff Jr., founder of Trajan Wealth. And if you've built up a 401k or thrift savings plan, now is the time to ask, is that money really working for you? Many workplace retirement plans offer limited options and even less guidance. At Trajan Wealth, we help people just like you roll over their accounts into IRAs with more flexibility and personalized investment strategies built around your goals. For households with $500,000 or more, let us build you a personalized plan. We operate on veteran values, service, trust, and doing what's right. Your next chapter starts now. Call Trajan today. 801-207-9900. That's 801-207-9900.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. See website for details.
Holidays are here, the countdown to Christmas, and it's time for you to make your reservations at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. I have to tell you how festive it is, whether it's downtown Salt Lake City at 275 Southwest Temple or up at Hotel Park City. Just the atmosphere, the decor, it is spectacular at Ruth's Chris. Now, as great as that ambiance is, you're there for a steak, right? You're there for a great, great meal. And Ruth's Chris Steakhouse never disappoints. Pick out that perfect steak. It will be cooked to perfection, and it's not just steaks. They have the seafood and the poultry and other dishes and the desserts at this time of year, the side dishes. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, the perfect place to celebrate the holidays this year. And don't forget, the perfect stocking stuffer, a gift card from Ruth's Chris Steakhouse.
This is the story of the one. As an HVAC technician, he and his digital multimeter are in high demand. So when a noisy office HVAC turns out to be a failing blower motor, he doesn't break a sweat. With Grainger's easy-to-use website and product information, he selects the product he needs to keep everything humming right along. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Welcome to Cricket Wireless. Santa?
I've got to get Mrs. Claus a gift or I'm in a whole lot of trouble.
How about a single unlimited line? Only $35, plus a free Moto G 5G.
Dude, you're a lifesaver. Here, take a present.
Says it's for Timmy in Des Moines.
Never heard of him.
Join Cricket Nation and get a single line for $35 per month, plus a free Moto G 5G. Smile, you're on Cricket.
Cricket may temporarily slow data speeds if the network is busy. Requires activation of new line on select unlimited plan or higher. Pay $40 first month. New lines only. First month service charge. Tax to its sale fees. Terms and restrictions apply. Cricket 5G is not available everywhere. See cricketwireless.com for details.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Visa Triple Rewards. And here's Cormac Bone.
Heavy delays stretching through the Salt Lake Valley on northbound I-15 from 7200 South in Midvale up past 13 South in South Salt Lake. These are residual delays after a semi-truck rolled over and closed 4 right lanes. They're still blocking the on-ramp from 13 South and in that right shoulder, but the lanes have opened up, so hopefully we see those delays die out soon-ish. Also, heavy delays as drivers avoid I-15 on I-215's west belt starting at 3500 South in West Valley. It's real slow up until the I-80 interchange near the airport, and Tooele County in Lake Point seeing abnormally long-lasting delays this morning at the SR 36 I-80 interchange. Texters saying it came to a full stop multiple times this morning. Find a nativity perfect for your home or to gift to loved ones. Every style, every size, every budget. Celebrate the true meaning of Christmas with nativities at Deseret Book and DeseretBook.com. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today we'll see partly cloudy skies with a high of 50 degrees, a low of 36 tonight. The warmer winter weather continues all this week. We'll be in the 50s. Right now it's 43 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, the Utah legislature is set to convene in a special session called by Governor Cox to address urgent issues, they claim, following recent court rulings that have introduced some uncertainty into the election process and address legislation for the 2025 session. It's a little bit of a battle between the courts and the legislature. And to refresh your memory, President Stuart Adams did not hold back on bringing up his concerns about the court's selected map when the special session was first announced.
Judge Gibson has authorized the most partisan and thus the most gerrymandered map in the history of the state of Utah.
So to help us explain what's going on, I have my co-host, Holly Richardson, to tell us a little bit about this special session, what it's called for, when it starts, and sort of what do you think the agenda is going to be?
Well, we know what the agenda is, and look, the way a special session works, it's a little bit different than the normal legislative session. So the governor calls a special session, and when he issues the call, he actually issues, he details what will be discussed at the special session. So the legislature cannot go outside of what is listed on the call.
The governor sets the agenda, basically?
Yeah, and it was done in conjunction with the Utah legislative leadership. So there's some caveats to that. But in any case, the agenda is basically set. So there are 5 items on the call for tomorrow. 4 of them have to do with redistricting. 1 of them has to do with the law that was passed earlier this year about collective bargaining and public unions. And we're going to talk with the sponsor of that bill and the people from the other side later on in the show. Basically, they're going to repeal that law. But the 4 items on redistricting, there will end up being a couple of bills, a couple of resolutions, and as I'm looking at the Utah legislative website, which is le.utah.gov, utah.gov, I'm looking there. The special session is called for 6 p.m., but before that, they will be meeting in committee hearings. They're not yet scheduled, and they have to be noticed 24 hours before they happen, so it won't be at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. But at some point, they will hold committee hearings for these bills. Now,
so the special session is set for 6 p.m. Tuesday night.
Yes.
Okay.
And that means the House and the Senate will be called into session where they can actually vote on bills.
So does that tell you that the session will be tomorrow and be done tomorrow?
Oh, yeah.
Because they'll have the
It's
meetings.
scheduled from 6 to 8, and I don't even know if it'll take that long.
All right, because they're going to have committee meetings and public hearings and whatnot beforehand.
They will. And again, I don't see those scheduled, but they should be on the agenda. So one of the bills will be about congressional filing deadlines. We've talked about this on the show. Right now, the law says that all candidates who are running for office in 2026 will need to file in January, beginning the first week in January. Well, for congressional candidates, because these maps are still potentially in question because the legislature is trying to get the Utah Supreme Court to overturn Judge Gibson's ruling, basically, they're going to move that deadline to March. Now, another thing you need to know is that signature gathering, the congressional candidates who want to gather signatures, they can gather them statewide. They don't just have to stay within their own, within the bounds of that congressional district. That will be a change. So that's one of the bills.
Okay, so talk to me about that. So that doesn't affect other candidates filing for other offices. It's just our 4 congressional.
That's correct.
Seats.
It only is going to affect congressional candidates. It will not affect any other candidates. So if you're running for the Utah House or the Utah Senate or any other election in 2026 besides Congress, you will file in January. Congressional candidates will file in March.
Okay, so you file your notice of intent to gather signatures, and then you can gather signatures, but historically you gather signatures within your legislative district.
Yeah.
It does make a little sense that they're making it statewide this year because of the fact that the districts might change between now and who knows.
Well, hopefully by March, people will know, right? So the candidate
district
filing period will begin as the legislative session ends.
Okay.
So that's one bill. Another bill will be to repeal the public sector labor union law that was passed earlier this year. We'll talk about that later in the show. And then there's 2 resolutions. So this is interesting. One of them is clearly, it just like the joint resolution regarding constitutional authority, it clearly says, and this is from a news release from the Utah legislature this morning, that it condemns the court's novel interpretation of the Utah Constitution that infringe on that authority and silences Utahns' voices. So there is a resolution that they're going to pass. It will condemn the court and reaffirm that the legislature has constitutional responsibility over redistricting. And that has been the argument all along, right? Back and forth between the two, between Judge Gibson and the plaintiffs in this case and the legislature.
So the resolution is to resolve that the law is already in place that gives the legislature constitutional authority over redistricting.
Well, yes.
But just to reaffirm that, I guess.
And there's another resolution that talks specifically about the Supreme Court, and there's three points, I guess, that they put on here. One, that election-related cases need to be typically handled on an expedited basis. That's, again, one of the complaints that the appellate judge took too long to make her decision.
The trial judge. And she didn't give them enough time to file their appeal. You're exactly right.
It also proposes an adjustment of attorney fees until after the appeal process has concluded and exempts a governmental official or entity from posting bond to appeal a case. And then this one, it clarifies that the Utah Supreme Court has exclusive and original appellate jurisdiction over election and redistricting cases.
So you don't have to jump through the hoop of the Utah Court of Appeals.
That's what that sounds like to me.
And in under Utah law, there are certain cases that go to the Court of Appeals, certain that go to the Supreme Court. Obviously, like a death penalty case. In the criminal world, straight to the Supreme Court. Other cases go to the Court of Appeals. So in this case, they're saying if you're dealing with election and redistricting issues, the Supreme Court has exclusive and original appellate jurisdiction. In other words, bypass the Court of Appeals, you're going straight to the Supremes.
Yeah, that's right. And so that's what is on the docket for tomorrow. So there will be an opportunity for the public to weigh in. There's an opportunity for some discussion. Again, I don't know the time yet, and I'll keep an eye during the show to see what is put on the agenda, because I'm assuming it's going to be out there really soon if they're going to have any kind of public comment.
I guess I'm a little concerned and disturbed at a resolution condemning a court's interpretation of the Constitution. I mean, appeal it. If you don't like it, appeal it, and which they'll do, and which they are doing anyway. But I mean, taking a shot at a judge, I think that's a little difficult. I understand they're upset; they've made that very clear. But a joint resolution condemning a judge's decision,
it is interesting, right? It is interesting, and we're gonna talk a lot about this today, about this special session. We'll talk about it, I'm sure, tomorrow and Wednesday, but. One of the things that's interesting, too, that happened over the weekend is there was a vacancy that was filled, and that was Democratic Representative Galen Benyon, who became the mayor-elect of Cottonwood Heights. She stepped down, and so there will be a brand new legislator. He's being sworn in today. It's John Arthur, who will be her replacement. He'll be sworn in today, and, talk about jumping right into the fire. He starts tomorrow. Technically, he starts today.
Yeah, so he'll be at the special session for his first session.
Yep. So, look, a new poll, they're going to talk about this, too. A new poll finds Utahns don't want judges deciding congressional maps, but they also don't want the Utah legislature to be the sole decision maker. So we're going to talk about that after the break.
Utah is one of the best places to live, work, and raise a family. But for many Utahns, the dream of owning a home is slipping away. Home prices have risen faster than incomes, and families are spending nearly 2/3 of what they earn just to keep a roof overhead. From young graduates to grandparents, everyone is feeling the squeeze. Utah needs more homes, the right kinds of homes, so families can stay close and our communities can thrive. That's why Utah Workforce Housing Advocacy created Demand More Supply, a statewide effort helping Utahns understand the issue and take action in their own communities. Because when we work together, we can make housing affordable again for today's families and for future generations. Let's make the dream of owning a home a reality again. Learn more and add your voice at demandmoresupply.com. Demandmoresupply.com. That's demandmoresupply.com.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Does it feel like someone's stabbing a knife into your heel? Or does your lower back give you problems as the day goes on? The Good Feet store wants to help you, like we helped Ann.
Every time I stood up, pain just shot up my legs. Fortunately, I found the Good Feet store. I went to them after my doctor diagnosed me with plantar fasciitis. And now, thanks to the Good Feet store, I'm 100%.
Wouldn't it be nice to get back to doing what you love, like Patrick did?
I was in constant pain. Somehow my fiance and I found our way into the Good Feet store. Put my foot on the arch support system. I put them in my shoes, my back, my knees, my ankles. Thank you. Thank you, everybody at the Good Feet store. You gave me my active life back.
Learn more or schedule an appointment at goodfeet.com and come in and get your free personalized fitting at the Good Feet store. We have locations in Farmington, Riverton, and Sandy.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
You probably know if you need new windows. You hear the wind whistling. There's condensation between the panes. Maybe your heating bill's too high, but you don't want to pull the trigger because it costs a lot of money. I understand. And they understand at Advanced Window Products. After all, they've been creating custom state-of-the-art windows right here in Salt Lake for 39 years. They know what's up. That's why they offer 60-month 0% financing or buy now, pay later. You get the windows this winter for 30 to 40% less because you're buying straight from the factory. They'll build, they'll install your windows, and you don't have to pay for a year or more. At Advanced, they're committed to making your new windows affordable. And if you call now, they'll knock another $2,500 off your quote. State-of-the-art, energy-saving windows built here for Utah's changing climate. And right now, $2,500 off. Call for a quote, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindows.com.
Emergency traffic on KSL News Radio, sponsored by Mountain America's Visa Triple Rewards. Leftover delays that we are still dealing with on the northbound drive of I-15. All from the earlier rolled semi this morning after 1300 East on the northbound side. That ramp still closed to traffic. And all lanes are open northbound I-15, but we still have a lot of slowdowns stretching from Murray just after 53rd South to the 6th South exit. And then overflow slowdowns remain as well northbound on I-215's West Belt 3500 South up to the I-80 junction. Wasatch Front businesses and property managers GoPave Utah provides all asphalt repairs for your parking. For patching and paving along the Wasatch Front, contact GoPave Utah. GoPave Utah, GoPaveUtah.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Attention Jazz Nation. The long wait is finally over. Mountain basketball is back and better than ever. Let's go! All tickets are on sale now, and you won't want to miss the action. Jump on the opportunity to watch your favorite players live and in person. Whether you're after season tickets, mini plans, or single game matchups, the Utah Jazz has got your back. There's a plan for every fan. Don't miss out. Secure your seats today and be part of the excitement all season long. Let's go! Visit UtahJazz.com today.
This holiday season, step back in time to an era of true elegance. Titanic. The exhibition is now open at the Shops at Southtown in Sandy. Walk the grand staircase. See the artifacts. Feel the stories. It's the perfect outing for the family or a thoughtful gift for someone special. Now open through April 2026. Purchase tickets and ticket gift vouchers today at titanicexhibition.com. Titanic, the exhibition. Don't miss the boat.
Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness.
The new Inside Sources.
We spoke in the last segment about a special session that the governor has called for the Utah legislature to get together tomorrow night and talk about, among other things, redistricting. And in conjunction with that, there was a recent poll, Holly, that I want to talk to you about that the Sutherland Institute gave that interviewed Utah voters about who they thought should be who should be deciding congressional districts. And after the poll came out, and you can talk about the numbers in just a second, House Speaker Mike Schultz told the Deseret News, Utahns have made it clear they overwhelmingly want their elected representatives, not the courts, leading the redistricting process. This poll shows strong support for keeping the legislature in the driver's seat, where accountability and transparency guide the work. We're committed to honoring that trust and ensuring Utah's maps reflect the people we serve. So there are polls and there are definitions of how you look at a poll.
There are polls, darn polls, and then there is interpretation of polls.
Right.
So look, he's not wrong in saying that the Utah voters in this poll done by Sutherland Institute, that they think that state elected officials should be involved. However, they don't think they should be solely involved. And they don't think, in fact, the number one answer is who should decide, this is the question, who should decide the boundaries for a congressional district? The number one response is 35%, that's the number one, is bodies elected by the people. That's the redistricting commission. No, that's the Utah legislature, right? Mm-hmm. However, you also have an additional question of what role should they have? Well, they should be involved, but they should be able to pick a final map from a set of maps approved by a redistricting commission. That's the top answer.
So that begs the question as to why we're here, because that's almost exactly what happened with Proposition 4. They created a redistricting commission, and the voters, that was a ballot initiative. We came forward. The redistricting commission did what it did. The legislature disregarded it in some part, and a judge had to intervene. So it doesn't surprise me that people are saying a judge shouldn't pick the maps, but a judge really didn't.
It's not pick the maps. The question is, should a judge draw the maps?
Right.
And Utah voters say, no, the judge shouldn't draw the map. Well, I would say that there are plenty of people on the plaintiff side who are saying the judge didn't draw the map. Right. You put the judge in a position of giving her what she considered an extremely partisan map, and she had to choose, right? That's a different scenario than saying the judge drew the map. She didn't.
Right. She had a hearing with the plaintiff and defendants. They both had their experts. They both presented their maps, and they both had people come in telling why the map fit the parameters of Utah law and Prop 4. And she decided which map made the most sense in terms of the law and the facts as she heard them. So
it's interesting. So I'm looking, this is directly from the poll, and by the way, Sutherland Institute commissioned the poll. It was done by Y2 Analytics. They are a legit polling organization, and I trust them to ask good questions in the right way. So one of the things that's interesting is voters think 45%, as I mentioned, believe legislators should choose from maps approved by a commission. An additional 40% say legislators should set district boundaries with an advisory commission to assist, right? Which is basically what you said, the argument for Proposition 4. So what's interesting here is kind of how the data is being spun, right? People on one side, on the side that favors the legislature being the only ones, they are saying, look, only 9% think judges should draw the maps. But by the same token, only 9% think the legislature should exclusively draw the maps. That's really, really interesting.
Yeah, so in light of this poll and in light of what we talked about before, Holly, what is the legislature, what do you think they're going to do in this special session as it relates to going forward and drawing maps? Or do you think that's...
I think it's clear with what they have put out for the information that we got this morning on the bills that they're talking about. They want to basically condemn the judge. They want to make sure that the Utah Supreme Court is the only court hearing these things, and they want to make sure that the Utah legislature maintains full and sole control of redistricting decisions. I think that's the direction that they're going.
So this whole constitutional amendment, not amendment, the part of the Utah Constitution dealing with congressional maps seems to be a huge hook that the Republicans are hanging their hats on, saying, well, the Constitution says that the legislature draws the maps.
Right.
And they're sort of limiting it to that specific language, saying, see you later, goodbye.
That's right.
And so there's nothing else that matters. The judge struggled with not only that, but with a ballot initiative and said, well, what if the citizens, what if the people get together and say, no, we don't like what you're doing?
Because that's a different part of the Constitution.
Right,
it's still
right,
in there.
Right. And that was what people wrestled with. The Republican legislature saying, well, we don't care what the citizens want. They didn't say it that way, but they were saying that say what you want, but ultimately it's our decision, so you can have input, but
right.
that's not decisive.
So look, it's really interesting, right? We're talking about independent redistricting commissions. We're talking about, does the judge draw maps, which is a totally different thing than does the judge have to choose a map. I want to know from our listeners, who should choose the maps, right? So should an independent commission, let's ask it this way, should an independent commission advise on redistricting? Text us at 57500. I'm also interested if you think the courts should stay out of it and there's just no recourse through the courts, which would be an interesting discussion also.
Right. Or is it solely the province of the Utah State Legislature elected by the citizens to make that determination? I mean,
right, which is what they're arguing.
That's sort of what the question
That's what the Republicans are arguing. That's not what the Democrats are arguing.
Right,
Let's
exactly.
be fair.
Right.
So we do have already a texter that says it's about Republicans trying to retain power, right, on most elected positions. It's a power grab. We've heard that before, right? And I think one of the reasons we're in this situation is because people have worried about that, and so we've had this court case. Remember, Proposition 4 was passed in 2018. It's quite a while. Another texter says we wouldn't need judges to decide maps if the legislature followed the will of the people and took commission recommendations, right? So,
and it's interesting how both sides are looking at this poll and coming to their own determination. I mean, Better Boundaries, Elizabeth Rasmussen says, let's be clear about what this poll actually shows. And it's what you sort of said at the beginning here. An overwhelming majority of Utah voters support independent redistricting commissions, which is precisely what Prop 4 created. So that seems to be the underlying part of the poll.
Yeah.
But the Republicans are looking at the main body, which is, should judges create maps? And the answer was only 8% said yes. Well, of course, judges aren't supposed to create maps.
And here's the other question. Should an elected body or elected officials have the primary responsibility to decide congressional maps? Well, yes, right? 71% say yes. They should have the primary responsibility, but not the sole responsibility. That's the difference there.
Right. And I think that we kind of keep drifting away from a balance of powers and just checks on powers. And sometimes the court is just a check. And I think that's really what happened here, but the check got lost. The idea got lost in terms of what the judge was really trying to do
for
here.
sure.
And
We
political.
have conflicting texts right now. One that says we voted for a commission, it should be used. The other one says I think the state legislature should draw the lines and the court should get themselves out of it. And you know as well as I do, if the Democrats were in control, they'd be saying the exact same thing. So I don't know, right? But that's always one of the questions when you get into this discussion about what's a gerrymander, right? So it's just you'll hear a lot about this poll, I think, over the next 24 hours more than 24 hours, over the next couple of days as the Utah legislature meets in special session. This poll is clearly going to be referenced. And I think, remember that there's a lot of nuance within the poll and what question was actually being answered.
And we don't know yet for sure what our congressional boundaries map will be for 2026.
We think we know, but it's in flux because of an appeal now to the Utah Supreme Court.
And we'll know a little bit more about where the legislature's headed after their special session tomorrow. Speaking of legislature, Congress nationally has unveiled its annual defense package, and it goes further than just military spending. We'll discuss what that means straight ahead.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story: a rise in political violence could be tracked back to extreme and divisive language used by politicians. Greg Rogers is a retired FBI agent who now teaches criminal justice at Utah Valley University. Over the years, he says he's seen a rise in words like Nazi, fascist, and tyrant.
It's gone beyond just disagreeing, and it's now a genuine, almost hate. And I think that's really dangerous.
Rogers says in the past, many were worried about large groups like the KKK, but now there are many individuals being self-radicalized and acting out, like in the case of Charlie Kirk's killing. Today, Luigi Mangione, the man suspected of shooting United Healthcare's CEO Brian Thompson last year, will be back in court in New York. His attorneys are trying to throw out evidence found in one of his bags that authorities searched when he was spotted in a McDonald's in Pennsylvania.
Mangione's attorneys are now challenging what police retrieved from his backpack. One of the next witnesses is the officer who searched the bag, pulling out the alleged murder weapon and writings that prosecutors say point to motive. Another witness is the officer who found this pocket knife, zip ties, and a future to-do list. For today's date a year ago, the paper listed digital cam, hot meals, and water bottles. For the next day, the note said Intel check-in and survival kit.
ABC's Aaron Katursky reporting. Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 128. Now that's 0.25%. We're at 47,826. Coming up, unusually warm this week. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:32.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Do you know how to tell if a clogged drain is something to worry about or not? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I understand it's annoying and inconvenient, but sometimes a clogged drain can be a sign there's a more serious issue with your sewer main line. If the drains in the lowest level of your home aren't draining, or you flush a toilet and it comes up somewhere else like a shower or a floor drain, I'm urging you to look at this as more than just an annoyance. The last thing I want you to experience is a sewer backup. If you're a homeowner experiencing any of these issues, the first step would be to snake the line to see if it's just a blockage, which one of our drain techs can do for only $29. Yep, you heard that right. Any Hour Services will snake any drain line with normal access for only $29. Sinks, showers, tubs, toilets, floor drains, laundry drains, even that sewer main line that connects to the city. We'll snake any line for just $29. For help with your drain issues, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7700. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Getting more as a MyLowe's Pro Rewards member is easier than ever with the Lowe's app. Download it today and earn 500 points the first time you log in. Plus, your digital wallet helps you scan, save, earn, and access what you need to manage it all in one place. Download the Lowe's app and take advantage of your Pro benefits today. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid 12/1/25 through 1/7/26. Offer valid for first login per organization only. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Additional restrictions apply. Visit Lowe's.com/terms for more details. Subject to change.
This is the story of the one. As the purchasing manager at a manufacturing plant, she knows the only thing more important than having the right safety gear is having it there when you need it. That's why she partners with Grainger for auto reordering, so her team members can count on her to have cut-resistant gloves on hand, and each shift can run safely and efficiently. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Attention Jazz Nation. We know you've been waiting on the edge of your seat, and the time has finally arrived. All tickets are available now. Let's go! Your favorite players will be back on the court, bringing the energy all season long. Whether you're looking for season tickets, mini plans, or single game matchups, there's a perfect option for every kind of fan. Show up loud and proud at Delta Center this season. Don't miss your chance to be part of the action. Buy your tickets today at UtahJazz.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Visa Triple Rewards. And here's Ricky Meese. Good morning, Ricky.
Good morning, Amanda. It's still going to take a while before this rolled semi is completely cleared. It happened this morning northbound to I-15 just after 1300 South. And again, that ramp to northbound I-15 at 1300 South, that remains closed. No estimated time as to when it will reopen, but all lanes of travel on the main flow of I-15 are open, We still have delays back to 33rd South in South Salt Lake. And then in Davis County, we have a crash that is blocking left lanes of travel. And this is going to be southbound Main Street at Antelope Drive in Layton. Traffic getting by on the right. IFA Country Stores are the place to go for all your last-minute gifts this Christmas. Find something for everyone on your list. Stop by or shop 24/7 when you visit ifa.coop. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today we'll see partly cloudy skies with a high of 50 degrees, a low tonight of 36, and we'll stay in the 50s for the rest of the week. Right now it's 45 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, congressional leaders have released the text of its defense and national security package Sunday evening in anticipation of a vote. This is the multi-billion-dollar National Defense Authorization Act, and it's 3,000 pages. Holly.
Some light weekend reading.
Yeah, some light weekend reading. Luckily, we have somebody with us that actually...
I know, and we're so lucky to have her in studio. It's
right.
Cami Mondo, Deseret News congressional correspondent, usually in D.C. So happy to have you, Cami. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, good to see y'all in person.
Thank you. All right, have you read the 3,000 pages?
I've skimmed most of it. I've mostly relied on the summaries that the lawmakers and committees put out there. But yes, I have looked through quite a bit of it.
That's amazing. All right. So NDAA, it happens, is it every year?
Yes, it is an every year annual bill that they have to pass.
Okay, and it's a must-pass bill because why?
Because this is the bill that actually authorizes the defense budget. It doesn't have the spending attached to it quite yet, but it dictates how the Pentagon can spend its budget. It's a must-pass legislation. It's typically bipartisan, but we're kind of seeing some cracks there as we move forward right now.
So one thing that was surprising about it, just from the outset, is that it ended up being $8 billion more than what was requested by the president's budget. I would have expected the opposite, that they would be reining in the administration a little bit.
Right. Typically, and especially you see that with Republicans who do want to cut down on spending. It was a little surprising that this was not only just a little bit more expensive, it's $8 billion more. So that actually brought it over the $900 billion mark. So it's interesting to see how the White House will respond to that. But, you know, we do see a lot with negotiations. Typically, money does need to be poured in just to make sure to get everybody on board, especially with something that you need to pass.
So $8 billion was not even 10%.
Correct, yeah. Correct.
$900 billion. Okay, it wasn't it was big, but in relation to the total package, it's not huge.
Right. It sounds bigger until you put in the
big
picture.
Right.
But.
So you just you wrote an article for the Deseret News, and you know one of the things that strikes me is one of the things that we talked about last week was the kind of rebellion against Mike Johnson, and Elise Stefanik has some issues with this. What happened with that there?
Absolutely. So the big blow-up that we did see between Elise Stefanik and Mike Johnson was mostly influenced because of this provision that she did end up getting in the bill, but what she wanted was some language that would basically require the FBI to notify Congress if a lawmaker or a candidate for a federal race was being investigated. That was something that Mike Johnson didn't want to include initially because he was worried about losing bipartisan support for this must-pass bill. But, you know, after the big blow-up last week, it seems that she did win this fight. It is in the bill, so that is now in there.
So where does it sit right now, Cami? This is a proposed bill by Republican, or at least by Congress, but we haven't even addressed it with Congress yet. I mean, there's going to be some debate, I assume.
Correct. This is the final compromise bill. So the House did pass their version earlier this year. The Senate had passed their version. This is now what they brought together. Okay. Whether it's going to actually pass again, we always have to wait and see, because you will see Democrats who will probably be upset about things that weren't included or were stripped out. Some Republicans are upset about some things that weren't included. It'll be an interesting fight to see that over the next 2 weeks.
But it has to go through both houses again.
Correct, yes.
And then the president.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
I am really interested on President's War Authority. Can you talk to us about that?
Yes, that was another kind of a surprising inclusion of this language that would basically just end the two authorization of military force from 1991 and 2002, which basically just authorized the U.S. military to go into Iraq. fight against the Hussein regime. Those are still intact, even though it's been, over 2 decades since that's happened. So lawmakers on both sides of the aisle have tried to repeal these for years, but there has been pushback of what if we need to go back in there again? But there's the argument that it gives the president too much power. So it's been this back and forth for several years, but it appears that they have now included that language to repeal them. The Trump administration says that they're confident they can still do what they need to in the Middle East without it. So that was included in there.
Can I ask you then a follow-up question? Does this have anything to do at all with the conversation about bombing boats in the Caribbean and some in Congress saying this is an act of war and we need to be able to declare war? Is there anything in the NDAA that talks about that?
There isn't anything in there specifically on those war powers or the boats. I'm sure it was part of the conversations, although, Republican aides that I talked to over the weekend were very tight-lipped about the conversations that led to this being included, but I'm sure that may have been, part of the conversation.
Is the timing of this a little bit behind? You said that they'd already gone through some preliminary negotiations on this, and now we're back again. I mean, are we? Not that we're going to have a military shutdown or something like that, but is there some urgency to this, or is there some deadline by which they're supposed to pass this bill?
Right, so this would have been one of the bills that needed to be passed by October 1st, along with all of those appropriations bills, because again, as you're saying, the defense budget, this is needed for the defense budget to be greenlit. And so that would have been due on October 1st as well. That's when we saw the shutdown. Would have been needed, so it was also that October deadline. So that's why they're kind of wanting to move a little bit faster on it.
I have another question about interesting things, maybe not related to defense, and that is a section on IVF, in vitro fertilization. Why is this in the bill, and what does it do?
Absolutely. So there have been pushes in the last few years to mandate that those health insurance, policies that military members get. Some lawmakers, again, on both sides of the aisle, wanted IVF and other, procedures like that to be included under health insurance. That was something that Speaker Johnson started working behind the scenes last week to strip out of the bill, because it was initially included in that Senate version, but it's now been removed and it is no longer in there.
Can I ask you a follow-up then? Because I thought that was a President Trump campaign issue when he was campaigning, that he was going to make IVF available. Was that just kind of a broad statement, not specific to service members? I mean, why the change?
Right, and that's been an interesting, one of those, things that Trump campaigned on that has suddenly been changed after, he's been in office and Republicans have been in charge. Not all Republicans are on board with IVF. Mike Johnson is one of them. He kind of needles the line a little bit where he says, I am for, this kind of procedure, but it has to be done ethically, whatever that means, not completely sure. But that is one of the things that Trump did campaign on that we're now seeing a little bit of a roundabout on.
What's your sense on the Hill right now, Cammie, in light of the really extended and controversial and sort of heated discussions we had about the government shutdown? Now they're sort of back, but again, there's a looming government shutdown. I mean, do you think that lawmakers are starting to work together more now, or do you think we're still pretty divisive?
I think what you're seeing is there are a lot of rank and file members who are working behind the scenes to get all of this done. We're seeing they have to get their appropriations done. A lot of those appropriators are trying to get that legislation out before they leave for the Christmas holiday. But what we're seeing is really the leaders of the parties aren't doing as much, at least publicly, to move things along. As you're seeing in the House, Speaker Johnson and Leader Jeffries have completely broken apart. It appears they just seem uninterested in working together or negotiating, and they make that pretty clear. So it's going to be interesting to see, when we do come to that January 30th deadline, where we're at if leaders don't step in.
So just a quick follow-up. When do they break for the Christmas break?
Yes, they're here this week until the end of next week, whatever that Friday date is. That's the last day that they will be in session.
The 19th, actually.
And you got a break.
Yes, thankfully, I'll also be free from the Hill on those days. So,
wow, so interesting. Okay, well, thank you again for joining us in studio, Cammie. Cammie Mondo, Deseret News congressional correspondent.
Studio, right.
Anytime you're in Utah,
Yes.
come in person. Yeah, we've really appreciated all of your expertise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, look, Costco wants a refund. They're not the only ones, and it's so interesting here. Costco is suing. They want a refund on their tariffs, and their ability to get it could hinge on one Supreme Court decision. I'm wondering, should companies get their money back? Text us at 57500. Tell us how tariffs have affected your business when we come back.
I'm Christian Staples with Arctic Spas. Christmas comes early at Arctic Spas, and you know you're going to want something different this year for Christmas, and that is a hot tub, swim spa, sauna, or cold tub in your backyard. Christmas is about spending time with loved ones, and there is nowhere better than spending time in hot water. No phones, no distractions, just relaxing face-to-face time. If you have never tried it, this will be life-changing. To make this Christmas even easier, we are offering 25% off on all in-stock models with guaranteed delivery for Christmas. So the best Christmas present ever, quality time with loved ones, relaxation, guaranteed delivery for Christmas, savings of 25%, and you get to enjoy it over and over year after year. Nothing is better. Pick out your perfect hot tub, swim spa, all-weather pool, sauna, or cold tub at ArcticSpasUtah.com or visit one of our 3 stores covering all of Utah in Salt Lake, American Fork, and St. George. Arctic Spa, the only spa built for Utah's harsh climate.
Well, winter is here, and a lot of kids here in Utah don't have the warm coats and shoes that they need to get them through the cold months ahead.
KSL's Quarters for Christmas has been helping local children for years, turning your donations into warm coats and shoes for kids right here in our own community.
And every dollar you give goes directly toward providing coats and shoes for kids who need them the most. It's easy to make a difference. Just go online to kslquarters.com. That's kslquarters.com. Donate what you can and know that you're helping keep a child warm this winter.
Please join us in spreading a little comfort and a lot of kindness with KSL's Quarters for Christmas.
At KSL News Radio, we have a 30-year legacy of honoring Utah teachers, but we can't do it without your help. Please tell us about an important teacher in your life on the KSL Teacher Tribute Wall, presented by Cypress Credit Union. Each month, one lucky teacher wins a $500 gift card from Cypress Credit Union, a $250 gift card to Harmon's, plus season tickets to Hale Center Theater. Say thanks to your teacher today at kslnewsradio.com/teacher from Cypress Credit Union and KSL News Radio.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. More fiber?
What?
Down here, buddy. It's me, your spoon. Constipation with belly pain still coming back?
Yeah.
Talk to your doctor. It could be irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, or IBS-C, but Linzess could help you get ahead of it.
Linzess linaclotide is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once-daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. Talk to your doctor and say yes to Linzess. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS.
For the first time ever, Winder Farms famous eggnog is on sale at Costco in the Salt Lake, Murray, and Bountiful locations with limited time inventory. Hurry to Costco now.
If you're talking, they will hear you.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy, so we show them how. And we tell them with honest conversations that let them know what we expect. Not just one time, but every chance we get. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. Kids not only need to know the dangers and how to avoid them, they need to hear it often from you. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be taken without a prescription and never shared with friends or family. It's dangerous and illegal. So talk with your kids and guide them through the challenges of growing up safe and healthy. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
So talk, they hear you. You can do it if you try.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel you attract people who tend to be compulsive or abusive?
Do you have money problems because of someone else's drinking?
Are you afraid or embarrassed to bring your friends home?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
More than half of all adults have a family history of alcoholism.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
families and friends are suffering too. Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
Inside Sources.
So last week, Holly, I was provided with a lawsuit, Costco Wholesale versus U.S. Customs and Border Protection and others. Costco suing, and I thought it was another lawsuit to have the tariffs declared unconstitutional or illegal or an improper use of presidential power. But if you read between the lines in this lawsuit, actually, if you just read the lawsuit, that's not what it is at all. What they're saying is, look, the courts have already ruled largely in favor of us. So what we want to do is bring this new action to collect the money that we've lost.
Yeah.
They're already saying we've won. Now we need to get paid.
It's interesting to me, and I love Costco, by the way. It's where I do my regular grocery shopping. How sad is that? But it's attorney and legal analyst Nadine Jones actually spoke with Midday with Maria Chaleos, who set up what's happening here.
This is all about the IEEPA tariffs. This is all about the tariffs that went before the Supreme Court on November 5th in oral arguments. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating to listen to that. And so the Supreme Court has to decide whether that statute allows President Trump to issue executive orders imposing tariffs, which is basically a tax on U.S. persons. So Costco has been paying the Liberation Day taxes and, tariffs, and it's preserving its right to be able to get a refund should the Supreme Court say all of those tariffs were unlawfully imposed because IEEPA does not allow for tariffs.
Yeah, we don't usually see lawsuits like that where they're saying, "Hey, you're all going to side for us, so we want to get in line for the money that we've lost." And Costco's not the only one. There are a lot of retailers who are saying, "Look, we've been hurt so badly by these tariffs. The courts are lining up one after another to say these tariffs were wrong. Therefore, we're entitled to some compensation for what we've ended up overpaying. So let's file another lawsuit to say, look, when the dust finally settles and you all decide that these tariffs were wrong, let's calculate what our damages are."
So talk to me about the Supreme Court. I mean, it has been fairly friendly, I think, to the Trump administration. What do you think they're going to end up ruling?
It's a tough one because every single court, as I'm reading the Costco lawsuit, has ruled against the administration and ruled against the tariffs. So of course, that doesn't bind the United States Supreme Court to anything. They can do whatever it wants. But it seems like, and there was an United States Court of International Trade, a court that we don't see very much, and which is really designed to deal with this exact issue. They issued a very powerful ruling not long ago about these tariffs and said that they were wrong. And it was a split decision. It wasn't right straight down the line. It was, there were some concerns about it. But I think the Supreme Court has to look at the overwhelming legal precedent, or at least the legal findings so far, and say, wait a minute, maybe the administration went too far. And what the administration was doing was using these Emergency Powers Act and saying, well, there's an emergency and we need to impose these tariffs. People have said, and this has nothing to do with the Costco lawsuit, but it's why they think they're going to win. But courts below have said, what emergency? This isn't the kind of thing that the administration needs to jump into. And by the way, this is something that Congress should be addressing.
I think it's interesting. So I'm looking at a Washington Post article that came out this weekend talking about these wanting to get tariff refunds. And it sounds to me like there are different ways to go after this. So Bumblebee Foods and Revlon have filed similar lawsuits, but they went to the trade court. Only a handful have gone directly challenging the White House. But it's interesting. They quote a trade attorney who said there are multiple avenues to pursue refunds. We don't know which ones will exactly work and which ones will be quicker. But The point is, it's a little bit uncertain as to what the steps are that companies could take to preserve their right to a refund. And it's kind of iffy if it'll even work at all.
And the amount of money we're dealing with here could be
It's a lot.
in the millions and millions of dollars. I mean, it could go more than that because Costco. You think about Costco alone, let alone some of these other retailers, the money that they've had to spend to overcome these tariffs in order to get products on their shelf, especially right now with the holidays and whatnot. I mean, they've had to spend a lot more. And we're talking about Chinese goods alone, 30%, and at some point it was like 100%.
Right.
So it's not like these are minuscule numbers. 30%. That's a lot of money when you consider all the product and stuff that's coming in from China.
One of the issues, I think, is we've already had a president who has said he's trying to talk about $2,000 taxpayer rebates. He's talking about using tariff revenue to help farmers. He also has described a potential Supreme Court loss as, quote, catastrophic. So the government this year has collected $89 billion in IEEPA levies through October 31st, but more than $5 million of that came from one company, maker of the waterproof Bog Bag. And they're just like they're one of the companies that is saying, look, we want a refund on what we've been spending here on these tariffs.
I've never even heard of the
I know.
waterproof Bog Bag
Because we don't live where there's a bog.
Yeah, there you go.
But
Right.
they have $5 billion in tariffs, or $5 million in tariffs is a lot.
Yeah, and I'm looking at some of these companies. Apparently, there are 150,000 importers that have been affected by this. So obviously, we're not going to have 150,000 lawsuits, but we're going to have a lot, and people are lining up because if the Supreme Court decides that these tariffs were not properly imposed, the floodgates open and the damages come piling in, and so you want to be at the front of the line. And Costco's done what looks like a pretty good job of doing that, to jump in front and say, okay, we're here's our hand out.
We have a texter with, I think, a good question. Why would the companies get a refund? They passed that cost on to us, right? And I think not every company did. I know some companies were trying to eat the cost for a while. But do you have an answer to that, Mr. Attorney?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a good question, and it's a very fair question because you would assume that Costco did pass it along. Costco's saying not so much, not so fast. We still had to hold our line, and maybe their damages won't be as much as what they're claiming because they did pass it along. Because anytime you deal with a lawsuit like this, you have to deal with what the concept of restitution. What are you out? What were you actually hurt?
Right.
And if they did pass it along, there may be an argument, like the texter says, that, well, how were you hurt?
Yeah.
You didn't lose anything. Your customers did.
Yeah.
But you can't have 200 million Americans filing lawsuits either.
Right.
You know what
Also,
I mean?
yeah.
Right.
Also, it's interesting to me, this Washington Post article, that trade attorney that they referenced, he points out that tariffs are not actually going to go away. So if the IEEPA tariffs, which were passed under this Emergency Act, if those get struck down, this trade attorney feels like the administration will just replace them with tariffs coming from a different angle.
Right, and tariffs that they can justify by saying, well, it's not part of an emergency. It's just something we're doing to balance the trade deficit.
There's a 1930 law that the president can impose tariffs of up to 50% on goods from countries that he thinks are discriminating against U.S. products, right? So it's not the 150, it's not the 200, but he could go up as high as 50.
And it's like you said, our Supreme Court has, especially with the current makeup, been very deferential to the administration. And Congress has too, for a large part, because the administration came in, they had a mandate from the voters, we're going to change some things, we're going to change the trade deficit, we're going to change immigration, whatever, all these things that they were doing. And so there's been this notion, Holly, and we're still in the president's first year of saying, well, let's give him a chance. He had all these ideas, he had all these plans, let's see how they shake out. One of those was tariffs, and tariffs were a huge part of his agenda in terms of what's happening with the budget and whatnot. And he said, let's try it.
We do have a business owner who texted in and said, I'm in the electronics business, computers, cameras, networking, things like that, and tariffs are really hurting their business.
Yeah.
So
it would have been interesting had that texter said, and I've had to pass it along, or I've lost it. You know what I mean? Because that was your question.
Yeah.
No, it's killing these businesses. It's shut down a number of businesses who just can't compete.
Especially if these smaller ones, right? And maybe they're importing goods from, say, China. It's really hard to stay in business with these. All right.
When we come back, immigration attorneys in Utah are warning their clients that they could be arrested when they show up for their regular appointments. We'll talk about what that means when we come back.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story, the use of extreme speech may be contributing to political violence in the nation. KSL News Radio's Brianna Willis reports.
Words like fascist, Nazi, and tyrant are more often being used in online and public spaces, says retired FBI agent Greg Rogers. He says there was a time when most, including politicians, could disagree and then go for dinner together later.
That doesn't happen anymore. Now these people are genuine, and I don't mean to overuse the term, but they're genuine enemies.
He says this attitude is amplified online and social media spaces. Rogers says it can be dangerous to only be in spaces where everyone agrees with you. Brianna Willis, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Supreme Court will hear arguments today on whether President Trump can fire a Democratic member of the Federal Trade Commission. ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy has more from Washington.
The case has the court weighing whether to overturn a precedent dating to 1935. Back then, Franklin Roosevelt's attempt to fire a member of the Federal Trade Commission was rejected by the High Court, which said that Congress could require that there be cause for dismissal. Now, President Trump and his aides argue that view is unconstitutional, and they're counting on this conservative-leaning court to agree. It's a high-stakes fight over control of what have been known as independent agencies. Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 200 points now. That's 0.4%. We're at 47,754. Coming up, we've got warm temperatures this week. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:02. Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Between all the holiday parties,
weekend tailgates,
and family get-togethers. Oh, they're here. Hey, who needs something to drink?
We've been overindulging a little more than usual. Thank goodness we both added active liver to our diets to give our livers some much-needed support so we have the energy we need to enjoy the holidays.
Active Liver from New Nordic contains a powerful blend of turmeric, milk thistle, and globe artichoke extract designed to give your liver maximum protection and help it do vital jobs like removing toxins from alcohol, rich foods, and sweets.
Try Active Liver today and enjoy all the holiday treats with the peace of mind of knowing you're giving your liver some relief.
Find Active Liver online at Amazon, Vitacost.com, or iHerb.com. Or pick it up today at CVS, Meijer Grocery, or ShopRite. Enjoy life to the fullest with Active Liver.
The power of we believes in you. It advocates for you. It completes your circle. It makes sure you have the strongest circle possible. And with Intermountain Health in yours, you'll always have the care you need to live the healthiest life possible. That's the power of we. Intermountain Health.
The holidays are just around the corner, and Western Nut Company is here to make your gifting a breeze. From our beautiful gift baskets and nut boxes to our famous in-house fudge and brittle, we've got treats for every taste bud, crafted with the highest quality ingredients. Corporate gifting, that's our specialty. Just send us your list and we'll handle the rest. Beautifully packed, shipped with care, and guaranteed to impress. Calling all office managers or executive assistants. Call Western Nut now and let us make your holidays a little less nuts. But we actually do want you to eat more nuts. For 60 years, Western Nut has been a proud Utah tradition. Stop by our downtown shop for unique gifts, glittering ornaments, festive decor, and so much more. Western Nut Company, more than just the best gifts in Utah. We're a holiday tradition, in-store or online at westernut.com, where quality meets tradition, and every gift is packed with love.
Higher taxes, soaring inflation,
record low interest rates, and the skyrocketing cost of healthcare. The list goes on. Retiring successfully today is a lot more complicated than ever before. Learn how you can tackle the biggest challenges that you'll face in retirement today. Don't miss a special edition of Retirement Solutions Radio. It's this Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock, right here on KSL News Radio 1027.
We've got emergency traffic and weather brought to you by Mountain America's Visa Triple Rewards. Where's this one, Ricky?
This time it's in Davis County. An accident on northbound I-15 approaching 7th South Clearfield, SR 193. Right now, they're trying to get these vehicles moved out of those center and right lanes of traffic and open up the freeway once again. It's going to take a couple of more minutes before those lanes are completely open, and there are a lot of vehicles involved with this accident. Right now, we are seeing stop-and-go delays into Layton. If you are traveling northbound I-15 right through the heart of the valley, the crash that tied up traffic this morning just after 1300 South is still over to the right shoulder, but the delay is pretty much clear. Lingering slowdowns northbound SR 36 in Tooele County going from Mills Junction up to the I-80 intersection. A lot of that is due to construction. For the first time ever, Winder Farms' famous eggnog is on sale at Costco in the Salt Lake City, Murray, and Bountiful locations with limited inventory. Hurry to Costco now. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today, we'll be starting partly cloudy. Those should clear out by this afternoon. A high temperature today of 50 degrees, overnight lows in the 30s, and we'll stay in the 50s for the rest of the 7-day forecast. Right now, it's 45 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
You know, Holly, one of the things we wrestle with in the criminal practice is our clients who are on probation or parole and have to go check in every month with their probation officer.
Right.
And usually it's like, hey, I'm here, everything's great. But sometimes they've had an issue like a confrontation with law enforcement. They've had new charges filed, and they know when they go in to see their probation officer that they're going to get hooked up.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll call you and go, okay, if I go see my PO tomorrow as scheduled, he's going to arrest me. What should I do? And the answer is never, don't show up.
Right.
Because then it's going to be worse. Like, well, my daughter's graduating from high school. What if I just showed up the next day? I mean, you have to be really careful with that. But now that's sort of poured over into the immigration world, and it has for some time. These are people that have to check in. A lot of our immigrants have to check in. And even if they haven't done anything wrong necessarily, some attorneys are warning that they could be taken into custody for nothing other than just showing up.
Really, for doing the right thing. And that's
Right.
that's one of the things that's so frustrating about this quote-unquote immigration crackdown, right? I mean, I guess it's not a quote-unquote. It's a legit crackdown. But instead of going after what we heard were supposed to be the worst criminals, right? And I don't think anybody disagrees with that. I think we all agree that the people who are here committing big crimes should not be here. But when you have people who do everything the right way, they're following all the steps, and then they're picked up at their appointment for their green card, for example, their final appointment, that happened over the weekend. You just have to start asking, like, what are we doing here?
Right, and it's because they can, and it's because there's some notion that ICE has to take into custody X number of people a day, and filling a quota. Let's be honest, that's what it's ended up being. Is more difficult than some people expected, and so rather than look at the people who are committing crimes, who've just entered the country illegally and have never done anything about it, we're always taking those people into custody. We've expanded the net much broader to people who are here legally, but maybe their green card has been extended a little bit, and while they're trying to process that, or maybe they're trying to get citizenship and they're this close to getting it done, and suddenly they come in and they're taken into custody, and sometimes they're released a month later
Yeah.
or 3 months later.
Several of the national cases, right, that have made news over the weekend were immigration citizenship, oath of citizenship ceremonies where people were literally showing up to like they've passed the test, they've done all the things, showing up for their swearing in, and they were asked if they were from certain countries, and if they were not allowed to swear an oath of citizenship to the United States of America. Which,
that's something we have
like you
never
follow
seen before. Right.
all of the rules, right? And that's one of the issues I think in Utah. So
And they're not easy rules.
They're not easy rules. Look, I'm telling you, I don't think most of our population could pass the citizenship test, right? I really think that's true. It's quite difficult. And these articles struck me over the weekend. So there's a KSL article, Immigrant Advocates Warn of Increased Enforcement Action Targeting Salt Lake Immigrants. And a similar one in Utah News Dispatch talking about lawyers who are warning their clients that if you show up, you could be arrested. If you're arrested, you're going to have handcuffs put on you. If you have handcuffs put on you, please don't resist. We're going to do everything we can. We'll get you out. We know you're following all the right steps, right? And so it speaks to me really in opposition to the argument of, well, they should get in line and do things the right way. These people did get in line, and they are doing things the right way, and we are still seeing ICE agents round them up and ship them out of state.
Right, and there are certain countries that are being targeted more than others.
Yeah.
We all know where those are coming from. But as an attorney, you're in the worst position in the world because you can't advise a client not to show up. But you can tell them if you show up, you're going to get arrested, and they'll say, so what should I do?
Yeah.
Well, if you show up, you're going to get arrested. So what should I do?
Well, and that's where you get the advice, please don't fight.
Right, yeah,
Right?
that's the best advice. You're going to get arrested. Don't fight. Don't resist. Don't do anything that's going to cause you more problems. Go quietly into custody, and we'll work on getting you out.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think it's really sad, actually. And we do have a specific case of a man who is a husband. He's father to a U.S. citizen. His wife is a U.S. citizen. He went to what was supposed to be his final green card interview in Salt Lake City, and he was picked up. He was arrested. He has no criminal record. And his attorney, who is Andy Armstrong, this is a KUTV article, by the way, he says he should have walked out at that appointment with his approved green card.
I wonder what country he was from. Does it say? Because I think that there are certain countries whose immigrants are being treated differently than others, and that's I don't think anyone would dispute that.
Well, his name is Jair, so I'm guessing he's South American, right? So it's just like, if you have these protected statuses, right? You're a dreamer. If you have temporary protected status, if you're waiting for a hearing, if you have a work permit, you should feel confident that you have protections, and yet we're seeing that you're not. They can't be confident because people are being picked up at ICE offices.
And
USCIS, sorry.
Right.
Picked up at USCIS by ICE.
In the past, we didn't have any room in the inn, and we weren't really taking people into custody. And that was the part of the problem with these immigration and deportation hearings, is that they were taking so long, but by the time you got to the hearing, the individual was nowhere to be found. So now we're sort of putting the cart before the horse and saying, we're going to hook you up at the outset. We're going to take you into custody, and maybe even start deportation proceedings before you can have your hearing. It's a real problem.
Or you delay the hearing, and then they become out of compliance because USCIS canceled the hearing, and then they're delayed, and then they're out of compliance. I mean, that's a catch-22, right, for immigrants. I was struck. Senator John Curtis went on CNN over the weekend. He talked, of course, like you always do, on a variety of topics, but one of the things that he said, and this is another Cami Mondo story, by the way. Sadly, a lot of times when we're talking about immigration, it's just painful, Curtis said. I think we're really struggling with compassion. That lack of compassion, though, Curtis says, comes from both sides. So he thinks there are real concerns with how ICE agents operate, but he thinks protesters who interfere with their missions are also not active out of compassion.
And I agree with that to some extent. I mean, I think peaceful protest is one thing, but if you look at some of these protests, they're anything but, and they're becoming harassing to the ICE agents. They're becoming aggressive. They're requiring the ICE agents to take them into custody, even if they're U.S. citizens. They're just trying to make a point. I mean, you've got to let the authorities do their job. You can protest, and you can stand in front of them and say, I don't like what you're doing, but to interfere, which is what's happening sometimes. I don't know. That's when protests.
I have to share this comment from John Curtis before we pivot. And he says this: I think all of us need to wake up every morning, look in the mirror and say, what are we doing? What am I doing specifically today to make this country a better country, to make all of our immigrants feel more welcome? I think if more of us would do that, it would matter less what specific individuals said.
Yeah.
All right.
Good for him.
Yeah, good for him. A Payson man is now in jail, accused of threatening to kill the governor, the lieutenant governor, Senate President Stuart Adams, and his threats were vile and disturbing. We're going to talk about that when we come back.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Do you want to walk, play pickleball, and enjoy other fun activities to stay healthy, but you can't because of bad feet? Hi, this is Mike, and the Good Feet store wants to help.
I just had difficulty walking. I tried them on in the store, and my foot felt so much better.
Do you keep buying new shoes and inserts with little or no relief?
I tried all kinds of shoes. It was the arch supports that made the difference from the Good Feet store.
Don't let bad feet, knees, or back problems get in the way of staying healthy and having fun.
Thanks to the Good Feet store, I'm bowling 3 nights a week.
Get back to doing what you love. At the Good Feet store, we'll personally fit you at high-quality arch supports to maximize your comfort. Stop in the Good Feet store or book your free fitting at goodfeet.com. We have locations in Farmington, Riverton, and Sandy.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Emergency traffic on KSL News Radio, sponsored by Mountain America's Visa Triple Rewards. Leftover delays due to an accident northbound I-15 in Davis County approaching 7th South Clearfield, SR 193. They have been able to get all lanes of travel now open, and what's left of the crash is over on the right shoulder. However, the residual delays that stacked up to about Gentile Street, Oak Hills Drive in the Layton area, we're still seeing some heavy delays that remain. It's starting to move a little bit better, but anticipate another 5 to 10 minutes before these delays will clear. Wasatch Front businesses and property managers. GoPave Utah provides all asphalt repairs for your parking. For patching and paving along the Wasatch Front, contact GoPave Utah. GoPaveUtah.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
When you switch to Progressive, you could save bundling your home and auto. Then you could put that money towards some of the surprisingly more expensive things in life.
May I help you? I just wanted to request a late checkout, please.
Of course. That's $30 per hour for up to 4 hours.
Huh. Okay, but if you can offer a late checkout, then that probably means no one is staying in that room. So if it's empty, maybe I can just stay a few extra hours.
Oh, aren't you adorable?
Life costs a lot, so bundle and you could save with Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
This holiday season, Capital One reminds you to give yourself the gift of 1.5% cash back with the Capital One Quicksilver Card.
Can I earn 1.5% cash back on birds?
Birds?
What if you sent your true love 2 turtle doves plus a partridge in a pear tree?
Sure, but why would anyone want that?
The song was very convincing.
Earn 1.5% cash back on all your holiday purchases with the Capital One Quicksilver Card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Ebenezer Scrooge, you have yet a chance of escaping my fate.
Ah, humbug.
You still have time to get a Mountain America Rewards credit card and earn 3 times the points on every dollar spent, but only through the stroke of midnight on December 31st.
I suppose I can learn to enjoy the holidays with triple rewards.
Apply today and learn more at macu.com/triple.
Membership required based on eligibility. Loans on approved credit offer can change or be withdrawn at any time. Limited time offer. Business cards not eligible.
Any Hour Services can help you make sure your furnace keeps you warm this winter. Whether you need a tune-up, a repair, or a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Hi, it's Tori DeVito. In every family, small conversations can make a big impact. I grew up on tour with my parents. Kind of different, but we bonded over music just like other families do over sports, camping, or other interests. And we talked. Little everyday conversations from silly to serious that built a foundation over time. Honest conversations, like when my dad shared his experiences as an alcoholic.
Your honesty about that part of your life gave me a sense of integrity that I wanted to uphold in my own life. And I was so grateful that you and Mom had become these sober, stable people who were always there for me.
I wanted you to know from someone who's been in recovery more than 30 years now that hard work is what creates success, not alcohol or other drugs, whether it's music or anything else. I said it a lot, and I'm glad you took it to heart.
Talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Emergency medical unit, respond to 102 Maple Avenue, possible stroke victim.
When stroke occurs, you have 60 minutes to win or lose the race of your life. There are new treatments, but you must get to a hospital fast. If you suddenly feel weakness on one side, have trouble speaking, walking, or seeing, it could be a stroke. Call 911. Get to a hospital. Because how you spend the next 60 minutes could determine how you spend the rest of your life. Stroke. Know the signs. Act in time. A message from the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke.
And expanded Inside Sources.
Well, a Payson man is now in the Utah County Jail accused of threatening to kill the governor and other state leaders. He apparently claimed that he would shoot Governor Spencer Cox, Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson, and Senate President Stuart Adams. Let's learn more details from KSL News Radio's Adam Small.
Police are accusing Douglas Wilford Pace of making a phone call to Capitol Hill last week where he allegedly said he would shoot Governor Spencer Cox, Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson, and Senate President Stuart Adams. Arrest documents say Pace has a history of making calls like this to local and federal election officials. He was charged with threatening terrorism in 2018, which he entered a plea deal for, though investigators say Pace has a traumatic brain injury. Police are recommending prosecutors charge him with several felonies, but they're also asking they pursue a mental health screening to determine the best path forward. Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
So the details that we're seeing, and you have even more details than I've read, these are very, I think they're very specific and very concerning threats. I mean, one of the things he said is he could stand on the lieutenant governor's porch and shoot her. Right, just and that he had to do this because Jesus was coming.
Right. Yes, he called the Utah State Senate office Thursday afternoon and asked to speak with Senate President. When he was told he couldn't, he said this allegedly: "Once I get my hands on a weapon, I will shoot Governor Cox, Deidre Henderson, and Stuart Adams in the head. They need to be erased from the earth because Jesus is coming." And then he said, "I'm not afraid to stand on the porch of Deidre Henderson's house and shoot her." And then he said, "The governor needs to be done away with, and he'll finally keep his mouth shut when I'm done with him. I'll send him to hell." I mean, you mentioned, Adam Small said that he has a history of traumatic brain injury. He also has a history of doing the same thing. He entered into a plea in abeyance 2018. But no matter what you say, these are things you absolutely have to take seriously.
Well, so that's my question. So if he was able to enter a plea in abeyance and get some charges dismissed, and he's out there and now he's making new threats, I think they're very specific. Of course, they were taken seriously. He's in jail right now. What's to say he's not going to be released again and could potentially carry through on some of those threats?
Yeah. So one thing that should give some solace to some of our leaders is that he has a history, and because of that history that you just mentioned, Holly, this case will be treated more seriously. I mean, we call it one bite of the apple. People make a mistake, they do something wrong, they get a plea. In his case, he got a plea in abeyance, which is not uncommon for a first-time offender. He's not going to get a plea in abeyance again. I mean, you only get one of those in your lifetime. You know what I mean?
It's a one and done.
It certainly is, because it's to teach you. It's to say, are you really sorry? Are you really repentant? And if you are, we're going to give you this one freebie. Just stay out of trouble. We're not going to mess up and see that you have a criminal history the rest of your life. But now he's booked into jail, and he hasn't been charged yet, and he's presumed innocent on 3 counts of felony threat of terrorism, 3 counts of misdemeanor threat of violence, and 3 counts of misdemeanor threat of elected officials. So the reason there are 3 counts is because there are 3 alleged victims: Cox, Henderson, and Stuart Adams.
Sure. So we have talked so often on the show, it feels like, in the last 6 months about political violence, political rhetoric, right? And at what point does it escalate? And clearly this is a point where it escalated. But these elected officials getting death threats is not that uncommon.
Right. It's not. It's not. It's inexcusable. The problem it creates, in addition to the threat itself, is now law enforcement has to direct a higher level of security to these these state officials. I mean, you can't just say, okay, he's nutty, he's done this before, but he never hurt anyone, because you can't even take a chance with that. And he's talking about Deidre Henderson's house as though he knows where she lives. I mean,
he might, right?
He might. I'm not afraid to stand on her porch. I mean, it makes it sound like he has some idea where she might be. I mean, these elected officials absolutely don't have to put up with this. It's not part of the job. It's not part of the job description that you be harassed or threatened with your life because somebody doesn't like what you do. I mean,
so Friday was December 5th. Since December 1st, in 5 days, he called the governor's office 50 times.
Right.
Right? 50 times.
Yeah, and he's been issued a cease and desist notice that prohibits him from calling the lieutenant governor's office. So he's now directed it to the governor, and obviously that's going to change too. He'll get another cease and desist. It's worth the paper it's written on. You know what I mean? But you can also enhance a crime by saying, okay, you were put on notice, like trespassing. If you trespass, that's one thing. If you're told not to trespass and you do it anyway, it increases the crime a little bit. So the cease and desist would help with that.
So talk to me about the traumatic brain injury. I don't think it's an excuse. I understand that it can cause changes in personality, all of those types of things. Legally, what could happen here moving forward?
So if it's a significant injury that affects his judgment and his ability to comprehend and what we call his competency to be like Ralph Menzies, although that's a terrible example, but if he's competent, if they determine that he's a threat to himself or others, he can be hospitalized at the state hospital. Now that's not the prison.
Right, but involuntary.
Right, yes, he could be taken into custody and housed at the state hospital, which is a secure facility until they determine that he's not a threat to others. So even the traumatic brain injury will, on a good day, maybe keep him from going to prison and instead going to the state hospital, which I don't know that there's a big benefit for between one and the other. Certainly, the state hospital, you get treatment, and then even if he goes to the state hospital, if they give him medication, they get him back on to where he should be, then they can still prosecute him for the underlying crime. All it means is that he because it's the threat. If it's a legitimate threat, and the government authorities feel like it's a legitimate threat that he will harm someone, they can and will take some action, whether it's incarceration, where he is right now, or whether it's hospitalization, which he may be in a month. They'll certainly take steps to do that. Right now, he's being held on 9 charges, 3 of which are second-degree felonies carrying 1 to 15 years in prison. He's not going anywhere anytime soon.
So just from your perspective, what are next steps maybe for these elected officials?
Yeah, and that's a hard one because Cox, Deidre Henderson, and Stuart Adams probably, certainly Spencer Cox does, have a security detail already. I imagine they all do. But they would have someone that would, it's not like Secret Service, but there's got to be, I don't know, every time we see these people, they have a bunch of guys hanging around them. That you assume has, but maybe the state, maybe the State Bureau of Investigation, Highway Patrol assigns an officer to follow them or stay with them or drive them. You know what I mean? They could absolutely do that. Or maybe they say, okay, let's say Cox lives in Santaquin or whatever, and they
Fairview,
wherever, and they would go to the Fairview police and say, you need to drive by his house. You need to have a regular, ongoing rotation, someone driving by his house, so that nothing like this is going, or by the governor's mansion or wherever. There's things you can do.
I wonder how that might impact this upcoming legislative session, and we've talked about that before. I know there's a lot of legislators who carry both concealed and open, but there has been over the last few years an increase in security as people go into the Capitol when the legislature is in session. And I've noticed that because when I was up there, pretty much anybody could walk in, right, at any time.
And that's part of the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Is that people can watch their government at work.
Right. But at least now you have to be screened to go in during the legislative session. It's just concerning to me, the increase, right? And these are local elected officials for our state. I know nationally, Marjorie Taylor Greene has talked about some of the explicit death threats she's gotten, and she lays that all directly on the feet of President Trump, who called her a traitor for wanting the Epstein files released, right? The violent rhetoric is increasing, and I am really worried somebody else is going to die.
And it sometimes it goes past the rhetoric too.
Yeah.
We've seen examples, Nancy Pelosi's husband, others, where you have where the act actually occurs and someone's actually hurt.
Minnesota lawmakers this summer, and of course Charlie Kirk here, who is not an elected official but certainly a political figure.
Right. Oh boy. So he's being held in custody. We'll follow up with that just for our listeners' benefit. That he's currently charged. He's sitting in jail. He's been there since the 5th. They've got to do something within 72 hours, 72 business hours.
Not including weekends.
Yeah, not including the weekends. So I would expect there'll be some charges filed in Utah County within the next day or two, and we'll follow up with that as well. We also want to follow up with something Governor Cox said it's time to do, and that's to perhaps consider holding back students if they fall behind in their reading. Is that fair, or does it carry a stigma that we need to move past? Opinion editor of the Deseret News, Jay Evenson, brings us his perspective when we come back.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story this hour is breaking news. The Utah School and Intuitional Trust Lands Administration is asking the public's help after someone reportedly stole a human skull from a protected ancient burial site in southern Utah. There is a $3,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the persons responsible. The missing and endangered 5-year-old believed to have been taken by his non-custodial father was reunited with his mother over the weekend. The Bountiful Police Department says his father, identified as Benjamin Despain, was taken into custody and charges are pending. The mayor of Green River was killed in a highway crash this weekend. Utah Highway Patrol says Ren Hatt was on Highway 6 just 8 miles west of Green River when a semi-truck drifted into oncoming traffic. UHP says they don't think the driver was impaired, but they are investigating the crash. Hatt had just been reelected to his seat in November, following in the steps of his grandfather, who was the town's mayor for 18 years. Our top national story this hour from ABC News, warnings about so-called AI slop targeting YouTube babies. Tech experts say toddlers are spending more and more time watching online videos created by content creators targeting kids who may not have good intentions. Bloomberg reporter Alexandra Levine.
As babies are learning to make sense of the world around them, if they are not able to tell what is, quote unquote AI slop versus what is real, and also if they're not able to distinguish between what is actually, what is actually valuable versus what is something simply attention grabbing, and that is why it's piquing their interest, that there's concern that this may affect the way that they understand the world and the way that they interact with any kind of information around them that they're trying to process.
Levine tells ABC News new Pew data finds YouTube viewing by babies under 2 is rapidly on the rise. Your money at this moment, the Dow is off 219 right now. That's 0.5%. We are at 47,738. Coming up, we've got warmer than normal temperatures all this week. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:32. A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have Leaf Filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/radio to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
To get this special radio offer, go to leaffilter.com/radio for your free gutter inspection today and get up to 30% off. That's leaffilter.com/radio for up to 30% off. leaffilter.com/radio. See representative for warranty details.
My friend Joey means well.
Always remember that the early bird gathers no moss.
But he gets a little confused.
You know, you can't make a silk purse out of a wooden nickel.
Like Joey, many of us can be confused when it comes time to plan for retirement. When to take Social Security, how to use that 401k, what about the stock market, taxes, and Medicare? Todd Kim at Galileo Wealth Management can help to simplify retirement planning. His goal is to have you walk into retirement with confidence, not worry, and to address the #1 concern among retirees today, the fear of running out of money. Call Galileo Wealth today for a no-cost, no-obligation meeting to talk about the details of your retirement. 385-247-7000. It's 385-247-7000 or online, GalileoWealth.com. And remember,
one man's trash is thicker than water. Of course, water's not thick at all. It's watery.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
What makes you so different than the rest of us?
We ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Tell me more.
Our investment counselors focus on service over sales, prioritizing clients' needs.
How do you make money?
We don't sell any commission-based products. We have a simple management fee based on the value of our client's portfolio. So we do better when our clients do better.
What about client portfolios?
We get to know each client, their finances, family, health, lifestyle, and more, and then we tailor a portfolio based on their specific goals and needs.
Your clients really come first then, huh?
Yes, we make them a top priority. Our goal is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement.
Wow, maybe we are different.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Visa Triple Rewards. And back to you, Ricky.
All major delays have finally cleared out on I-15 in both Salt Lake and Davis counties. Now, we still have the final cleanup of the earlier rolled semi northbound I-15 after 1300 South. Traffic can sometimes still be a little slow, slightly reduced in that area, but the ramp from 1300 South to northbound I-15, that remains closed. Then in North Salt Lake, we have a crash blocking all lanes of travel. This is northbound State Street at Center Street. You need to avoid this spot and find an alternate. Looking for the ultimate holiday gift? That's what you get at Minky Couture, the original luxury blanket company. Use code KSL50 online and in stores to receive 50% off. Visit minkycouture.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
We'll have partly cloudy skies today, a high of 50 degrees. We'll stay in the 50s for the rest of the 7-day forecast. Right now, it's 46 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Last week we talked about an idea that Governor Cox was having about Utah's literacy rate, especially with our young people. And he talked about the fact that among third graders, the number of kids that are reading at grade level is 48%. I mean, and it's been that number, been a fairly low number for several years. The legislature's been trying to get schools involved, trying to get some incentive to do something about this. Well, Governor Cox is saying, well, if you don't, maybe it's time to bring back holding back students, sitting them out for a year.
Right, retaining them, right? We used to call it flunking.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, not we, but it happened when I was a kid. I knew there were kids in my class who had been held back. So we have Jay Evenson with us, opinion editor of the Deseret News, and you just wrote recently about this, Jay. Tell us about this idea of retaining kids, holding kids back.
Well, Governor Cox, and you were in that meeting with me, Holly. He talked a lot about the so-called Mississippi miracle, and about 12 years ago, it was 2013, Mississippi changed its laws, and it put a lot more resources toward remedial learning and reading in the third grade. But it also included this retention policy. So if you didn't pass reading at grade level in the third grade, you would have to redo third grade. I think they even allow it to be done twice if it needs to be. And there are a lot of people pointing to Mississippi and saying that this has led to great increases in their scores on the big national test that we take every year, the NAEP test, where they test reading levels in fourth grade and eighth grade. And Mississippi apparently went from the bottom, 49th, 50th in the country, up to 9th in the country in reading. And the governor says he feels that retention is a big part of that. Now, we can get into a little bit later. There's a lot of skepticism about the Mississippi Miracle, whether it's real or not.
Yeah, Jay, my thought when I heard this was almost exactly yours when I read your article, which is I thought about my own experience in grade school, and I had a friend who was a year older than everybody else. And, of course, I didn't put two and two together for some time, but I realized after the fact that he had been held back. And so one thing I thought about this is, I don't know, the stigma to that. I never felt like he was stigmatized or we had problems. He ended up doing very well. But part of me thinks, is this a bluff by Governor Cox? Is this something to, hey, if you don't do this, it's going to happen? Or is it something that really will happen? And if it does, that can have some consequences too.
Well, of course, the governor can't just say it and then make it so. You have to go through the legislature, and there are going to be a lot of stakeholders from teachers' unions to parents that are going to have a say in this. And the stigma question is a big one, but I had the same experience you had with a really good friend who was held back and never questioned it, never thought about it. Research has shown that if you hold kids back in the third grade, you tend to be a lot more successful teaching them how to read and overcoming that stigma than you do if you tried to hold them back in a later grade. That's when it comes into play. I asked Governor Cox about the stigma, and he said, well, it can't be any worse than the stigma of being an adult who can't read or write and can't get a job and ends up in trouble because of that, which I think is a pretty good argument. But the question is the Mississippi Miracle real? And there's a paper that's been put out by Columbia University that looks at it and says, well, this is selection bias because you're not passing the worst readers on to the fourth grade. So when you take that NAEP test to test fourth graders, your scores are going to be higher,
Oh, good point.
Right.
Right.
Well, but the point should be not passing this test, but teaching kids how to read. And so if you're holding kids back in the third grade and are successful in teaching them to read, I think that's the point, right? It doesn't matter what your test scores say. But the other problem with Mississippi is that their 8th grade reading tests are really low as well. So there's a question as to whether this is truly a miracle or whether it's just the statistics that make it look that way.
My understanding also is with Mississippi, their math scores have stayed just kind of bottom of the barrel.
50th in the country.
Yeah, okay, so that is the bottom.
Yep.
So look, when we talked last week, we did have a texter let us know that his wife is a school teacher, and she has kids that are basically functionally illiterate all the way up to reading on grade level up in junior high, and that can be difficult. And at the same time, as a parent, like I wouldn't want necessarily to have a third grader at age 8 have somebody who has been held back like 3 years in a row or 4 years in a row, right? At what point do you say this is like we need an IEP here? There's something like, why are these kids not reading? And I know Utah has teachers who are phenomenal. It's not for lack of teaching, I don't think.
No, but of course we have very large classrooms, and this is a concern that I have. If we implement this, our third grade classrooms could become bigger and bigger, and it would be even harder to deal with that. So we have to provide the resources necessary to make a program like that work so that you can have one-on-one teaching, so that you can deal with larger classrooms. The other question I have is, what about your ESL kids, your English as a second language, who come here with 2 strikes against them basically because they don't speak English and have to learn how to not only speak English but read at grade level by the end of third grade, or they're not going to move on. So we have to deal with those questions.
I have a personal experience as an adoptive mom bringing kids into this country who largely had no education before they got here and who were of school age. And so they were behind. They were not reading on grade level. In fact, one of the oldest child we adopted was 12 years old and had minimal education at all, right? And so not only is he learning a new language, he has to learn school. He has to learn culture, right? It was overwhelming. And yes, we did have IEPs, which are individualized education plans for kids with special needs. But I think this is This is a more nuanced conversation than just say, in my opinion, let's hold kids back who can't read at third grade.
This seems to be aimed at families with parents who are ambivalent or don't care, and in a way to try to wake them up, because the governor and the lieutenant governor both said that in Mississippi they feel that just the threat of retention made kids learn how to read and parents get more involved. I looked it up, and the last year there were figures was 22, 23, and they withheld about 7.2% of students in the third grade in Mississippi, which amounted to 2,287 kids. That's not a small amount. I don't know what Mississippi's population is, but Utah's is probably a little bit larger. But that would be something to deal with. Look, the major problem here that we have to confront is we have about 45 million functionally illiterate adults in this country. And I question the term functionally, because I don't know how you get along if you can't read.
Right.
And that is a national shame, a national crisis. And the time to deal with it is in the early grades in school. So I applaud the governor for wanting to do something about it. Whether this is the way to go about it or not, I don't know, but it's worth discussing.
Well, we'll follow this. Thanks for joining us, Jay. That's Jay Evenson, opinion editor of the Deseret News. And look, we don't talk a lot about sports on this show, but holy cow, BYU was snubbed. I have a problem with that. We're going to talk with BYU insider Mitch Harper after the break.
You know, most diets will help you lose a few pounds, but Soda weight loss will help you lose years. I lost 37 pounds on the Soda weight loss program 3 years ago, and I feel younger than I've felt in decades. And it's not because of how I look, it's because of how I feel.
But you do look younger,
Thank
too.
you.
I let go of 70 pounds in 5 months, and then I looked at the before and after pictures of myself and was like, wow.
It's something when you don't have to carry all of that excess weight around. And I was at a stage in my life where I didn't want to add drugs to my regimen. I wanted to reduce the number of medications I had to take. So the nutritionist at Soda Weight Loss taught me how to have a healthy relationship with food.
And it was so helpful that I could text my nutritionist anytime I wanted to for advice, which helped me learn what I needed to know so that I could keep it off. And right now, this is the perfect time to join, because if you join now, your partner joins for free. It's the perfect gift for both of you.
It's at Soda Weight Loss.
SOTAweightloss.com, because soda is, say it with me, Amanda,
state of the art.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio, or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
Winter's coming fast. It's already been cold multiple times. Kids here in Utah don't have warm coats and sturdy shoes they need to get through the cold months.
Yeah, so KSL's Quarters for Christmas has been helping local kids for years, turning your donations into warm coats and shoes for kids right here in our community.
And our listeners need to know that every dollar you give goes directly towards providing those coats and shoes for kids who need them most. It's really easy to make a difference. You just go online to kslquarters.com, give what you can, and know that you're helping keep a child warm this winter.
So please join us in spreading a little comfort and a lot of kindness with KSL's Quarters for Christmas.
Sometimes when our furnace stops working, it's something simple we can fix ourselves, if we only knew how. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and the next time your furnace stops working, before you call a company out to fix it, try this first. Go shut the furnace down and make sure your air filter is clean. Go around the house and make sure the vents are open and there's nothing blocking the return air. If it's been a while since you've changed the batteries in your thermostat, go ahead and do that too. Then go turn the furnace back on, and if it stays on, you're probably good. If it stops working again, you're probably going to want a technician to check it out. If you don't know one, Any Hour Services has a special offer for any homeowners listening. One of our HVAC technicians will diagnose and troubleshoot your furnace for only $29. Then they'll explain what they found and present you with repair options. And don't worry, our technicians service all brands. Call Any Hour Services and let them know you heard about this $29 troubleshooting special on the radio. 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
This week, the movie show broadcasts live from Health Center Theater. Give the gift of memories all year long with 2026 season tickets and gift cards. Go to hct.org.
When you choose Performance Automotive in Bountiful, you're choosing selection, convenience, and exceptional service. with 3 locations: Performance Ford Lincoln, Performance Honda, and Performance Toyota. Performance Automotive is here to serve your needs. Performance Automotive in Bountiful, where excellence comes standard. Start your search at performancebountiful.com.
Mr. Max, suiting for every important chapter of your life. Weddings, proms, new job, any celebration, mission callings, and more. Mr. Max there to suit your needs with 9 locations or MrMac.com.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy, so we show them how. With honest conversations that let them know what we expect. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be shared with friends or family. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home. You were prescribed opioids after the C-section and after Dad's back injury. They helped when you were in pain, and you held on to them just in case. But did you know holding on to unused opioids puts your family at risk? Trouble with opioids can start at home with unused medicines such as pills, patches, and syrups. You can remove the risk and protect your family. Find out how at www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
We don't get to talk sports very much on this show. In fact, I don't think we've ever talked sports in this show. But you know what? The college football playoff bracket was revealed yesterday, and a lot of people are wondering what happened to BYU. I mean, they had a great season. They only lost 2 games all year.
Such a snub.
And their losses were to what is now the number 3 team in the country. I don't think there's a team that was left out of the playoffs who didn't have a better overall record than BYU.
Well, we have an expert with us to help us understand the snub. Mitch Harper, BYU Insider. Thanks for joining us, Mitch.
You bet. Happy to be on.
What happened?
You know, BYU was never viewed in high regard by this college football playoff committee. They looked at BYU's first loss against Texas Tech back on November 8th, losing by 22 points as an indicator that BYU couldn't compete with the elite teams. And then BYU gets a second chance against that same Texas Tech team this past weekend, and once again they get blown out. And that was enough for the committee, despite BYU going 11-2 and their only 2 losses being to the number 4 ranked team in the country. The committee said BYU isn't good enough, so they kept him out of the rankings.
But they did beat a couple of good teams, including my Utes, who ended up, I think, 15th in the nation. I don't know whether BYU played the Arizona schools, but I know one of those ended up in the 20th range. And I know BYU beat Cincinnati, which at the time was ranked in the top 25. So they did have a pretty good record, Mitch.
No question. And you know that Utah win was a great win. The Arizona win that you brought up, that was an excellent double overtime victory in October. So BYU was a really good team, and their metrics stood quite nicely against, some of these teams like Alabama, Miami, Notre Dame. But for whatever reason, BYU was always outside the conversation, even from the ESPNs of the world who run the college football playoff when it came to the narrative and talking about who were the teams contending for at-large berths into the playoffs. BYU was never viewed as a team that was really in contention for an at-large bid. And it seemed like, once BYU lost to Texas Tech back in November, BYU reached its ceiling at number 11 in the playoff rankings, and they could never crack into the bracket. And it's unfortunate because this BYU football team was much better this year than they were a season ago, and last year's squad was also an 11-win team, but it just seems like BYU, no matter how many years they string together successful seasons, the committee just doesn't seem to give BYU the benefit of the doubt, if you will.
Is this a religious thing?
No.
You'd like to think not. I don't think it is. But, I think that BYU getting blown out didn't help out their cause. You just wish that BYU had a little bit more of a margin for error, because we see from teams in the SEC, Alabama had 3 losses this year, one of which a blowout in the conference championship, just like BYU. And then Alabama got blown out against a team in Florida State who didn't have a winning record this year, but no one brings that up. Yet BYU's 2 blowouts against the number 4 team in the country always get brought up and anchored down BYU's rankings.
So, Mitch, maybe I don't understand the procedure very well, but I'm seeing Tulane and James Madison, and I'm thinking, how do they jump over BYU?
So in the college football playoff, they give automatic bids to the 5 highest-ranked conference champions. So if you're a conference champion, you're going to be having a chance to, regardless of your conference, to have a chance to be in the playoff. And when the final rankings came out, as they did yesterday, those 5 highest-ranked champs got automatic bids to the playoff regardless of their league. So Tulane and James Madison both finished ranked higher than the ACC champion Duke, who had 5 losses, and BYU not being a conference champion, they were not in the mix for an automatic bid to the playoffs. So those teams get the path because they had an automatic qualifier because of the rules of valuing conference champions.
Can you talk to us about bowl games? Because I understand there's a little bit of a kerfluffle about the bowl games, and I know BYU is going to one. So can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, BYU is going to be playing in the Pop-Tarts Bowl on December 27th in Orlando, Florida, and it's a Big 12 game, Big 12 opponent versus an ACC opponent. But there was rumblings that BYU was going to face potentially Notre Dame, who, like BYU, also got left out of the college football playoff this year. Notre Dame wanted no part of that. They took their ball and went home and said they're not going to go to any bowl game because they were snubbed out of the college football playoff. So that then leads to BYU facing Georgia Tech, who, like BYU, ranked in the top 25 at number 22, but not as glamorous of a matchup as it could have been to see BYU versus Notre Dame. But BYU has a chance to get a 12th victory on the season, which would be the first time that's happened for BYU since 2001.
And Mitch, that's going to be a pretty well-received game because it does have 2 top 20 teams. And Georgia Tech certainly had a good season. I know they fell on their heads against Georgia at the last game of the year, but they were right in the mix, it seems like, all year too.
No question. Then they're a good football team. I just think that, when BYU's trying to build up its brand and to be validate that they were one of the best teams in college football this year, an opportunity against Notre Dame would have really signaled to the College Football Playoff Committee, if BYU won, hey, you got this wrong. BYU should have been in the playoff, whereas Georgia Tech, it's a good football team. It would be a really strong, sound victory for BYU if they could get it done, but it just doesn't maybe have the same national appeal of playing like a Notre Dame. It had that matchup come together.
I want to shift gears for a minute. What about my Utes? They made a bowl game, the Las Vegas Bowl, and they're playing what would otherwise be a big name, maybe not a team that had a big season, but Utah-Nebraska seems like a pretty compelling bowl game.
I agree. I think it's a really good matchup. I mean, Nebraska's history, that should be a good matchup. I think Utah honestly should probably cruise in that one. Nebraska's been struggling as of late, but I think definitely that will be a really good game in the Vegas Bowl. And you got to think, too, from a travel perspective, I'm sure a lot of Utah fans will be there. They've had a history of filling up Allegiant Stadium in Vegas, so really a good turnout. And I honestly think, too, Utah, like BYU, should have gotten more consideration for the playoff. I think, again, the whole Big 12 conference that BYU and Utah are in, they just didn't get respected enough, the entire league. And, because Utah only lost 2 games, and their 2 losses are to BYU, who's number 12 in the rankings, and Texas Tech, who's number 4. That's a resume that would say, that's a college football playoff team in the SEC or the Big Ten. But for whatever reason, the Big 12 teams that have that sort of profile, they don't have the same margin for error like some of these other conferences.
Are there any other Utah teams in bowl games this year?
Utah State, they're going to be going to Boise to play Washington State in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl on December 22nd. So Bronco Mendenhall, in his first year at Utah State, leads the Aggies to the postseason, which was a strong accomplishment in year 1 for Bronco Mendenhall's program.
It sounds like, Mitch, that the 3 Utah teams could go 3-0.
I think there's a great opportunity there for sure. And, I think it just speaks to the quality of play and the investment in college football in this state. You've got passionate fan bases in this state and people that love, college football. And they got passionate alums that want to invest and put money into these programs because more than ever before, the amount of investment financially into these programs is what wins the day. You look at Texas Tech, who BYU lost to over the weekend. They probably have one of the most expensive rosters that money could buy in college football, and no coincidence, they're in the top 4 and going to the playoff as one of the teams that might have a great chance to win the national title. So there's great investment in this state to these programs, and it shows itself on the field, and they've got chances to end their seasons on a high note with some bowl victories.
Last question. We got about 15 seconds. Mitch, I've got Texas Tech and Ohio State in the national championship game. Am I on a good path here?
I like that. I think Texas Tech's going to get to the title, and I could see Ohio State as well, probably the most complete team in college football.
Thanks. That was Mitch Carper, BYU insider, talking to us about the BYU snub. Bad news, but good news for the Cougars overall. They're going to get to a bowl game, and a good bowl game. Remember the huge debate over banning public union collective bargaining and the 300,000 signature push to overturn that earlier this year? Well, there's a special session to address that tomorrow.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio,
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. A Payson man is now in jail accused of threatening to kill the governor and other state leaders.
Police are accusing Douglas Wilford Pace of making a phone call to Capitol Hill last week where he allegedly said he would shoot Governor Spencer Cox, Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson, and Senate President Stuart Adams. Arrest documents say Pace has a history of making calls like this to local and federal election officials. He was charged with threatening terrorism in 2018, which he entered a plea deal for, though investigators say Pace has a traumatic brain injury. Police are recommending prosecutors charge him with several felonies, but they're also asking they pursue a mental health screening to determine the best path forward. Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Gas prices are falling all over the country. Here's ABC's Cherry Preston.
The average price for a gallon of gas right now, according to Gas Tracker Gas Buddy, $2.90. That's down 17.5 cents from a month ago and nearly 7.5 cents than a year ago. As usual, gas is highest in California at $4.41 a gallon and Hawaii at $4.34 a gallon. Oklahomans have the lowest prices. Drivers there are paying just $2.30 a gallon.
In Utah, gas prices have also fallen below $3. Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 191 points. The S&P is down 18 points. And coming up, highs in the 50s. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Our country is held together by small businesses. That's a fact. It's also a fact that 9 out of 10 of those small businesses will fail. Why? Because it's hard, really, really hard to build a profitable business from the ground up today. Pure Talk knows that. They started as a small American wireless company determined to keep their customer service in this country. It worked, and today Pure Talk is determined to help other small businesses prosper by offering them the same white glove service the big guys get. Same service, same 5G network at a truly affordable price. Pure Talk is focused on businesses that employ welders and roofers, electricians, plumbers, HVAC techs, the people who keep the lights on. If that sounds like your business, give Pure Talk Business a try and see just how much you could save. Dial pound 250, say micro, to switch to an American wireless company who understands the power of small business. Pure Talk.
You probably know if you need new windows. You hear the wind whistling. There's condensation between the panes. Maybe your heating bill's too high, but you don't want to pull the trigger because it costs a lot of money. I understand. And they understand at Advanced Window Products. After all, they've been creating custom state-of-the-art windows right here in Salt Lake for 39 years. They know what's up. That's why they offer 60-month 0% financing or buy now, pay later. You get the windows this winter for 30 to 40% less because you're buying straight from the factory. They'll build, they'll install your windows, and you don't have to pay for a year. or more. At Advanced, they're committed to making your new windows affordable. And if you call now, they'll knock another $2,500 off your quote. State-of-the-art energy-saving windows built here for Utah's changing climate. And right now, $2,500 off. Call for a quote, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindows.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Visa Triple Rewards. Here's Ricky Meese.
Crews still on the scene of this earlier rolled semi northbound I-15 just after 1300 South. The ramp from 13th South to the freeway is still closed at this time. Not sure when they're going to be able to get this cleared, but if you're traveling through that stretch on your way to downtown, just remember there's still just a little bit of reduced speed in those right lanes next to the crash, but otherwise we are looking at a quiet drive finally on the Valley freeways and our main secondaries. For the first time ever, Winder Farms famous eggnog is on sale at Costco in the Salt Lake, Murray, and Bountiful locations with limited inventory. Hurry to Costco now. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
We're going to see some warmer temperatures this week with highs in the 50s all the way through the weekend. We'll see some haze move into the valley tomorrow. That sticks around for a few days. Right now, 46 and mostly cloudy. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit House Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com for Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Earlier this year, Utah saw a burner of a battle on Utah's Capitol Hill when the legislature passed a ban on collective bargaining for public unions. That sparked a referendum that gathered more than 300,000 signatures. I think they needed about half of that. And now, with tomorrow's special session, lawmakers are going to repeal that very law. So we have with us on the line Representative Jordan Tuscher, who was sponsor of the bill during the 2025 legislative session. Thanks for joining us, Representative.
Yeah, happy to be with you.
And I guess the more appropriate thing is they're going to vote on whether to repeal the law. Holly seems to think
they will repeal it.
It's a done deal. What's behind this, Representative?
Yeah, well, as we debated the bill during the last session and tried to come up with the right policy that would give more public workers a voice throughout their negotiating process, and a couple other, important points around providing professional liability insurance to teachers, or ending the practice of using public monies to pay for union activities, et cetera. Afterwards, there was a lot of misinformation, confusion about the bill. I think a lot of that went into the signature gathering effort. About $4 million was poured into our state from the National Education Association and gathering those signatures. And really, in meeting with people across the state, we decided it would be better to take a reset, come back to the table, try to help everyone understand the issues that we're trying to solve, and make sure that we have the best approach moving forward. And that's what you'll see with the repeal.
Let me ask you this question. Why now? Why the special session and not wait until the 2026 general session?
Well, we've been working really closely with all of the different labor unions really since the end of the session, and most recently in the last couple of months, coming together to say, is there a compromise that we can get to? Because during the session, we worked really hard on a compromise. We were very close on getting somewhere and just couldn't get it at the end of the day. And coming out of those meetings, what they felt like would be a good sign of goodwill from the legislature would be to come forward with this repeal right now so that we're completely reset and they don't have to worry about it during the general session, and then continuing those conversations and workings groups moving forward to find the right policy.
Just procedurally, Representative, what did the referendum do? Did it require the repeal vote, or would it have put it back on as a ballot initiative, or what were the 300,000 signatures going to do? Had you guys not acted?
It paused the implementation of the bill, and then it would have put it on the ballot for this next November. And those that voted for for the bill would have voted yes. Those against it that wanted to not have it go into effect would have voted no. But this repeal, assuming it passes, will have it off the ballot, and then we'll continue to work for future options moving forward.
But the discussion with respect to public unions, public employees unions, is not over. There's still going to be some ongoing negotiations and discussions with teachers unions, law enforcement, those type of things, correct?
Absolutely. And both sides have committed to that process. And I think we both see areas where we can find improvement, and we'll work together to find the best policy for Utah.
Will there be legislation then during the 26th session, or will that just be an ongoing discussion that may take longer?
I think it will take longer, especially coming into the session. We're just about 45 days away from the session starting. And, getting a bill that's ready, that really has a consensus and has built public perception across the board and done the information campaign, I think it's going to take longer than what we have ready. So I don't anticipate seeing anything in this next general session.
I was a little surprised because when I heard the bill passing, of course, I've done a lot of work with unions. I was not necessarily in favor of it, but I didn't think it was a big shift. But 300,000 signatures, were you surprised at the pushback from this?
Well, like I said, they had a lot of resources moving forward, and again, a lot of misperceptions about the bill. The signature gatherers that I saw, the pitch was, hey, do you care about teachers? Do you care about firefighters? Do you care about police? Sign this paper. Not really about the intricacies of, hey, is collective bargaining a good thing for our state? And I think that's the time that we need to really have those deep conversations. And what we were trying to do in the legislature is to solve a real problem that exists, where we have public workers who are not members of those unions, and they don't feel like they have a voice in the process. They're not represented at the table. And so how can we bridge that gap by not taking away a voice from workers, which none of us want to see, but ensure that all workers have a voice?
Let me ask you a question just about process for tomorrow's special session. So will you be having a committee hearing on this issue, or are you going straight to the floor?
We're not planning a committee hearing on this since it's a simple repeal, so there really is no policy that is being enacted or not being enacted. It's just taking it off the table. There will be a committee hearing for the other bills that will be
Do you have
debating.
timing? Do you have timing on that, Representative? Because I keep refreshing the legislative page, and I am not seeing anything scheduled yet for committee hearings.
That's a great question. I don't know, because I know it's going to be the Government Operations Committee that's hearing that, and I'm not on that committee, so I'm not sure when they're meeting.
Oh, you know what? It just popped up. 4 p.m. It was my question to you that made the website refresh, so thank you for that.
There you go.
Hey, Representative, just we've only got a couple of minutes left, but and I know you've articulated this a little bit for our listeners who wonder why public unions were addressed here as opposed to other unions, which I suppose you couldn't have passed such legislation. But what is it about public unions that caused you all to think we need to revisit this?
Well, I think it's two things. One thing you mentioned, private labor unions are regulated by the National Labor Relations Board at the federal government level. So the state really doesn't have any say on private union policies and procedures. But when you look at our public employees, these are employees of the state. So in essence, the legislature is like the board of directors for a private company that really is looking out for our workers, want to make sure that they're happy in what they're doing, make sure they're productive, make sure there's good working relationships and working conditions, et cetera. And so that's why these types of bills come before the legislature, is we really set the policies and the guardrails for all public employees across the state.
Thank you so much for joining us, Representative, and good luck tomorrow. That was Representative Jordan Tusher. He was the original sponsor of the bill that they're going to repeal tomorrow.
You know, and I was surprised at the blowback from that. I worked with public unions, law enforcement unions, teachers unions, fire groups, and I completely understand where they're coming from, but I could also understand the legislature's position. I think this is a closer case than a lot of people expect. I didn't expect 300,000 signatures in opposition. Of course, Representative Tusher talked about why that occurred, because some of it was perhaps maybe a little misleading what people were signing. Do you support teachers? Yeah, of course. Who's going to not sign that?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, it was one of the ones I think during this last legislative session that was the most heated. I mean, I think every time I saw a committee hearing, there were very few people speaking in favor and just lines out the door for people to speak in opposition. And I guess I'm not surprised at strong pushback. I was also surprised at the 300,000 plus number, because that's double the number of signatures that they needed. And I think that was kind of the point, is they wanted to really make a point and say, we have a lot of public opinion on our side on this issue, and it would have gone on the ballot for next year to be voted on. And now it's a moot point. It's not going to be on the ballot because it's going away.
For good reason, though. I have to hand it to Representative Tusher and others to say, look, it's probably going to fold anyway at the ballot. Why wait until then? Why wait until the general session? This is something we should just deal with now. We got this legislature together. Let's repeal this law. It makes a lot of sense, and it's going to save a ton of money, I think.
We have a couple of texters on this issue, and it's really brief, but one person said they signed, and the person who talked to them about it explained it perfectly and in detail. They felt like they knew exactly what they were signing. And another person says unions actually do represent individuals who aren't part of that union.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Well, on the other side of the debate and behind the referendum was the Utah Education Association. They weren't the only ones, but we will talk to them when we come back after this break.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security, Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370, 888-999-6370, or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
If you're getting new gutters, make absolutely sure that you don't get screwed. I mean literally, don't get screwed. Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. And every single gutter company out there uses screws to hold their gutters together at the corners and downspouts. They use screws because they're fast and cheap and easy, but man, they're terrible for your gutters, aside from possibly cutting your hand. They also loosen and corrode over time because they're not made from the same metal as the gutters. At RGS Exteriors, we've been installing gutters for 70 years now, and we don't use screws. We only use permanent, strong, and unobtrusive rivets. They're made from the same material as the gutters, so they won't oxidize and they won't corrode. They'll also never loosen. Your hand is safe too. Did I mention they look amazing? So don't get screwed. Call RGS and get riveted gutters. Our number is 801-280-3110 or visit us at rgsutah.com. That's 801-280-3110 or rgsutah.com.
This holiday season, Capital One reminds you to give yourself the gift of 1.5% cash back with the Capital One Quicksilver Card.
Can I earn 1.5% cash back on birds?
Birds?
What if you sent your true love 2 turtle doves plus a partridge in a pear tree?
Sure, but why would anyone want that?
The song was very convincing.
Earn 1.5% cash back on all your holiday purchases with the Capital One Quicksilver Card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Progressive knows road trips without your pet can be tough.
Hi, this is Next Stop Dog Boarding.
Hi, it's Scott again. How's Squeaks doing? You can tell if he's stressed by his eyebrows. Oh, and his breathing should sound like this.
Scott, Squeaks is exactly the same as last time you called.
Okay, let's talk in 20 to see if anything's changed.
With Progressive, your pet is covered up to $1,000 in vet bills in case of a car accident. So next time, you can take your pet with you. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Not available in all states. Coverage for dogs and cats is included with the purchase of collision coverage and subject to policy terms.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Email from school about the incident today.
Scary.
Tell me about it. Did you have any idea that was going on?
None. I mean, you saw Derek at the game last night too. Did you have a clue?
No, but you know, teachers like me, parents, we don't always know as much as you guys do. Kids hear first about what's going on with other kids.
Half the time, it's rumors.
It can be hard to tell sometimes, But if you're ever concerned about a friend who's having trouble with alcohol, prescription drugs, bullying, violence, anything, you need to tell an adult. Mom or me, a teacher, coach, school counselor, someone you know and trust.
Dad, no kid is gonna tell an adult about that kind of stuff.
I get it, but if we don't know, we can't help. Speaking up about a problem, that's what helping a friend is all about.
For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Mom and Dad used to argue about everything, especially about Dad's drinking. It drove me crazy. It got so bad, I couldn't do my homework. I couldn't concentrate. I absolutely refused to let any of my friends come to our house for any reason. I would have been humiliated if anyone found out how much my dad drank and how loud my mom screamed at him. My family went from totally crazy to quiet, calm, and even peaceful. The only thing that happened is my mom started going to Al-Anon family groups. Her relationship with my dad really changed. I asked Mom if she would take me to her Al-Anon meetings or to Alateen. I wanted to see if I could have a better relationship with my dad. I'm sure glad I did. If someone's drinking troubling you, you might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-ALANON or go to alanon.org.
Inside Sources.
So earlier this year, Utah saw one of its biggest political battles over banning collective bargaining for public unions, a fight that sparked a referendum with more than 300,000 signatures. Now, in a sudden shift, lawmakers are heading into a special session tomorrow to repeal that very law. We just heard from Representative Jordan Tusher about that and why they're doing that. But Holly, this one caught me off guard a little bit, and you seem to have not been so caught off guard at the pushback from this legislation.
Yeah, I wasn't really caught off guard by the pushback just because I watched the process during the session, and there was significant pushback while it was moving through the legislature. I was surprised at the high number of signatures, way beyond what was needed to get this initiative on the ballot. And I think for me, I interpret that as a way to say, look, we want to show you we have really strong public opinion on our side. And so we just talked with Representative Jordan Tusher, and we now are joined by Jessica Stouffer. She's president of the Communication Workers of America, and she's been part of the Protect Utah Workers Coalition. Jessica, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm excited this is happening.
Yeah, so tell us what your view of what's happening is.
I honestly think that the legislators started listening to us. We had over 5,000 volunteers, and we gathered over 320,000 signatures, and that's a huge part of our population and workforce in the state.
So tell us why this removal of the law, like repealing the law, instead of letting it go to the ballot in 2026.
I think that the legislator has a lot on their plate right now, and one of the parts to this repeal is to try and build a working relationship moving forward and listening to the Utah voices and listening to voters. And so this is really the beginning of this, not the end. And so I'm really hopeful that we can maintain a working relationship and come up with something that works for most Utahns.
Jessica, we've had public unions, it seems, for quite some time. What do you suppose was behind this? What do you think the legislature was trying to do in terms of messaging, and what's the problem? And I'm asking you to play devil's advocate. Well, what would be their problem with public unions?
Yeah, I think that they're worried about just overall power that the unions have, and we just want a fair seat at the table. Most of us just want to work in a reasonable workplace and have safe places to work. And I think a lot of what they were doing was trying to limit what we can do and what we can try and have in contracts and things like that, or not even have a contract. And by them repealing this, it still gives us a seat at the table, and it allows us to come together and have contracts, which is nice because then we're not fighting every day.
I wonder if you could tell us and our listeners what Protect Utah Workers, what that coalition, who is it, who's part of that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. It's made up of 22 different labor unions total, but some of those include the AFL-CIO, AFSCME, Teamsters, UEA, USEA, CWA, UPEA, the police, firefighters. There's so many people involved in this. And it's really been awesome to be a part of and watch this movement continue to grow.
Jessica, in our last segment, we talked with Representative Tusher about this, and I think he was significant in terms of the bill in the first place. But he said it's not over, that they want to start negotiations again and discussions. From your perspective, what would that look like? I mean, I'm not asking you what your compromise would be, but what do you suppose the discussion could be around?
I think we really appreciate them repealing this bill because that starts us as a clean slate. And we have tried to push other bills that are a little bit more pro-labor, in our opinion, surrounding these issues that we've had, and they didn't like those bills. And really what my hope is by this repeal is that we'll continue doing a working group over the next year with legislators and members from this coalition and really have an opportunity to move forward and build a better working relationship.
So we asked Representative Tusher, and you just indicated you'll probably have a working group over the next year. He said he doesn't anticipate legislation in the 2026 session. But what type of legislation do you think could come forward maybe in the 2027 session?
I'm hopeful that it is really advantageous to labor and it's not so much of an attack on labor for 2027. We've had this attack over the last 3 or 4 years already, and I'd like it to be the end, and I'd like to have this working relationship and have something good come out of that. What exactly does that look like? It's so hard to say right now, but I think as part of the Protect Utah Workers Coalition, we're dedicated to keep showing up and working with the legislators and trying to get something that we can all agree on.
So tell us a little bit, tell our listeners rather, Jessica, about the signature gathering process. What did you all do? Because that's a number that I've never seen before in terms of gathering signatures. 300, you said 320,000.
Yeah. And so that signature process, we have one of the hardest ways to get the referendum going in the nation. And so we just started having meetings and we started pooling our resources. And by that, we had 5,000 volunteers and we just went out and started canvassing. And we collected that many signatures in 1 month. And it was a lot of effort and work for us to do, but the results of it are absolutely amazing. And I'm shocked that many people wanted to voice their concerns. And I'm appreciative that fellow coworkers want to voice their concerns. And I really hope they continue showing up for future issues that we might have.
We had a texter, and I mentioned it in the last segment, but this texter said that unions actually do represent individuals who are not a part of the union. Can you explain how that works?
Yeah, so for us specifically, it is that people who are not necessarily involved in the union or paying dues are getting the wins we have. One of the wins that we had was parking up at the hospital, and that went to 8,000 people. But a lot of those people aren't technically involved in the union, but it was a big win for us overall. And so that's one of those things where workers at union workplaces are getting wins they wouldn't have otherwise gotten.
Jessica, what can you tell our listeners about the place of organized labor right now in America? Popular, on its way out, something that's here to stay?
I think if there is a resurgence of organized labor recently. I think a lot of people are upset at how their workplaces and their day-to-day lives are going. And one of the ways to do that is to organize and make a difference. I think a lot of people fail to realize that as workers, we do hold a lot of power. And if we didn't do our jobs, society wouldn't be functioning. And that's across the board. That's not just one area of work. That's all of us.
I did wonder about individuals who might want to negotiate on their own outside of a union. It seems a little unwieldy for an individual to do that, but do they have that opportunity right now?
In theory, anybody can meet it with administration at any time, but often what I have learned prior to being in a union and helping organize was that my meetings with my bosses would be one-on-one, and then it goes nowhere for most of that. And when you bring 20 people into a meeting that all have the same concerns, it's a lot harder to just kind of ignore that or sweep it under the rug. So I'm really hopeful that we can continue making meaningful changes in workplaces just by having a louder voice and showing that we do care overall.
Thank you, Jessica. That was Jessica Stauffer, president of the Communication Workers of America. And it is interesting because I don't know that the legislature appreciated the blowback that we're going to get from this, but to their credit, recognizing that and wanting to save time and money, hey, let's just put it on the vote tomorrow and get rid of this bill and not have to fight it and fight against it for the next months to come.
Yeah, and I think it's reassuring on both sides that they don't feel like there's going to be any kind of surprise legislation, at least they don't anticipate any on this issue, and that they're going to work together for a while.
Yeah, and labor is one of those things that sort of ebbs and flows. Yeah. You know, it's very big, it's very popular, then it's not so much. Then you're hearing, Starbucks is organizing, and I've been involved in public unions for a while just because of my practice and having worked with the county and whatnot, and I appreciate what they are. Some people think of them more as an organization than a union. I forget the word they use, but they're treated a little bit differently. Nonetheless, they're popular. Sounds like they're here to stay for at least the while.
We'll see. Look, when we come back, we're going to talk about one of the world's, she became one of the world's youngest leaders, and her story is on the big screen now. Former New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has a documentary. It's called Prime Minister, and we're going to talk with a representative from Women's Leadership Institute after the break.
11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. A Mill Creek man is in critical condition after his son allegedly stabbed him last night. KSL News Radio's Alexandria Bonilla reports.
Arrest documents say Darian James Hinman and his father were arguing when he picked up a knife and stabbed him multiple times. A witness told police the two had a strained relationship. The father reportedly asked that witness not to talk to police so his son wouldn't get in trouble. He also reportedly declined to talk to police about the stabbing. Hinman told police he did it because he wanted to get revenge and smiled after learning his father may not live.
The son is being held for suspicion of attempted murder and aggravated assault resulting in serious injury. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. At least 6 people are injured after a massive 7.6 earthquake off Japan's northeastern coast.
A strong late-night earthquake shook northern Japan. Tsunami warnings sent people to higher ground in the winter cold. Waves just over 2 feet high have hit some ports. Warnings are still in effect along parts of the Pacific coast. Damage to buildings and some fires have been reported. TV showed images of damage and broken glass on the streets. Power and transport are disrupted in some areas. Officials urge people to stay on alert for aftershocks in the coming days and to stay away from the shore. Anthony Trotter, ABC News, Tokyo.
Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 303 points, the S&P is down 31 points. And coming up, Hayes moves in tomorrow. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have Leaf Filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/radio to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
To get this special radio offer, go to leaffilter.com/radio for your free gutter inspection today and get up to 30% off. That's leaffilter.com/radio for up to 30% off. leaffilter.com/radio. See representative for warranty details.
Is your financial advisor offering you up to a 30% upfront bonus? Or are they promising you up to 10% growth per year, all for your retirement income? If not, then you need to come to Trajan Wealth. I'm Jeff Jr., founder of Trajan Wealth. If you have a plan to retire within the next 10 years, don't wait only to find out it's too late. I've seen hardworking folks like you retire only to be required to go back to work, all because their advisor told them guarantees like these were too good to be true. They're not. That's up to $30,000 upfront or up to $10,000 per year on $100,000, all guaranteed for retirement income. Don't keep working when you're supposed to be retired, and don't let any financial advisor tell you it's too good to be true. Call Trajan today, 801-207-9900. That's 801-207-9900.
Annuities, non-advisory products. DBA Trajan Wealth Insurance Solutions. Additional disclosures at trajanwealth.com.
Hi, I'm Andy, your friend and jeweler at Shane Company. As a product development manager, I make sure every piece of fine jewelry at Shane Company is meticulously designed for quality. From 14-karat gold chains, pearl necklaces, diamond studs, and of course, dream engagement rings. We know you can get your holiday gifts anywhere these days, but knowing your loved one's gift was crafted by master jewelers? It's a difference everyone can see and feel, no matter the price. All of our fine jewelry begins with a vision by our in-house designers. Then, we ensure each piece meets our high-quality standards every step of the way, including the smallest details. It's why our jewelry comes with our all-inclusive, free lifetime warranty that covers everything and doesn't cost a dime. At Shane Company, there's no shortcuts, just craftsmanship. Because a friend wants your fine jewelry to be nothing short of perfect. Come see for yourself. Visit us in-store or at shaneco.com. Shane Company, your friend and jeweler.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Visa Triple Rewards. Here's Ricky Meese.
Crews are working to get a disabled vehicle moved out of traffic and off the freeway in Davis County, northbound I-15 at 2600 South Woods Cross. It was over to the right. And if you are traveling in Utah County, watch for an accident. Eastbound SR 73 Quarry Ride Highway at Mount Airy Drive in Eagle Mountain. It is blocking a left lane of travel. Looking for the ultimate holiday gift? That's what you get at Minky Couture, the original luxury blanket company. Use code KSL50 online and in stores to receive 50% off. Visit minkycouture.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
A high of 50 today, and then temperatures start to rise. We'll see highs in the mid-50s on Wednesday, and a haze rolls in tomorrow. Right now, 46 and mostly cloudy. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com or Utah's news, traffic, and weather stations.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
So she became one of the world's youngest leaders. Her story is on the big screen now. It's former New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern. And, you know, she really caught my eye when I saw that she was having a baby while she was prime minister, and she was bringing the baby with her to work. And I was like, whoa, I want to follow this leader. And she did a lot of things that I think sometimes they were controversial, but it's a different style of leadership. She was very, I think, proactive at reaching out and pulling voices into her administration that had been marginalized. I think if I remember, she had the first native, what would have been Maori, in her cabinet. And we have with us Melanie Jones. She's the CEO of Women's Leadership Institute, to talk to us about the movie Prime Minister that she's going to be screening tomorrow. Hi, Melanie.
Hi, Holly.
Did I remember those facts correctly about her administration?
I mean, now I feel like I need to go back to my notes. And I read the book this summer, her memoir, and there were so many remarkable things that she did. It's actually hard to keep track of them all.
Yeah, so she really was amazing. So tell us about this movie that you and I think Larry H. Miller are hosting tomorrow.
Yes, so there was a documentary made about her leadership all the way from when she was elected, kind of through her tenure as Prime Minister of New Zealand. I haven't watched it yet because I'm waiting to screen it with everybody else. I'm sure it's going to be emotional. But I read her memoir, which I'm assuming covers the same things.
Sure.
We read the memoir together as a Women's Leadership Institute on a community Zoom call, like a community book club, over the summer and fall. And this is sort of our farewell party for our book club, is to watch the movie together. And then afterward, we have on stage with us 3 executives from Larry H. Miller who are all women. And we're just going to explore what different types of leadership look like, using Jacinda Ardern's experience as Prime Minister and what we see in the documentary as a springboard for the conversation.
And what was it about her leadership that became so compelling that memoirs and a movie and things are being created out of it?
Yeah, I think that we have a certain image in mind when we think about a leader, when we think about a CEO, when we think about the leader of a company or a country. And Jacinda Ardern just did it differently. She led with empathy. I think that those who were following the terrorist attacks in Christchurch probably saw the response from the community to her out there with the people, respecting the religions of those people who were attacked. And she just handled it in a completely different way. As Holly mentioned before, bringing her baby to world summits was something that was not familiar. And we obviously here in the state of Utah have a family-friendly culture. We have women with babies who are in the workforce. And just seeing the way that that can be done, how you can be remarkably effective and still prioritize your family, bring your kids along with you, it's not something we're accustomed to seeing. And I think seeing it allows us to imagine what we could be ourselves.
So, Melanie, our listeners have to know you have made a transition this year. You went from leading Utah Business to leading Women's Leadership Institute, and I have loved that and cheered you for that. I wonder if you could tell our listeners what you're seeing in Utah as it comes to women's leadership.
Yes. Oh, so many interesting things to dig into. I think that there are some strange narratives in Utah about women in the workforce that are not necessarily backed in data. So, for example, you might hear somebody say that, well, we don't have a lot of women leaders in Utah because there aren't a lot of women in the workforce. We all choose to stay at home and raise our kids. But if you look at the Department of Workforce Services website, you'll see that 45% of Utah's workforce is women. And so if women are in the workforce, we're here. Why aren't we being promoted, recognized, being paid the big salaries, right? And so I think that bringing some visibility to the women who are here, who are leading, like I said before, it gives everybody a chance to imagine what their life could be like, what their careers could be like, and how to balance those things that we prioritize in Utah's community.
Melanie, we could have played that exact soundbite that you just said 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not trying to throw any damper on it, but have we progressed in the last 20 years? Are we going in a good direction? I mean, it seems like we talk a lot and we say a lot of things. We have women in leadership positions. We're promoting that more than ever. But we still have these conversations as though we still got some ways to go.
Yeah, well, if you look at those stats, with 45% of the workforce being women and only 22% of C-suite positions being held by women in this state, and 9.5% of CEO positions held by women in this state, we still have a long ways to go. We hate to talk about the Wallet Hub study, right?
Yes, we hate to talk about it.
Some of the metrics are valid, and some of them I just really don't care about at all. But they have ranked us for 11 years in a row the worst state in America for women's equality. And it's not even close between number 50 and number 49. Between number 49 and 48 is a closer margin. So we definitely still do have some work to do. I think some of it is structural and systemic, helping companies recognize the leadership that's already within their walls. Some of it is headspace, honestly, with the women. Do I feel confident enough? Do I feel that there's a place for me? Am I raising my hand to take on leadership positions? And am I repeating a false narrative in myself, that inside my head, that if I were to step up one level, it would be at the expense of my family, which is not always true. I have found in my career that as I have stepped up completely unplanned, I gained more freedom, more control over my schedule, more resources to delegate to. So I have not found at all that I have limited my family time by stepping up into leadership.
What are some successes you have seen with WLI?
I'm so new. I'm on my listening tour still. I've just been here a few months. But we do see successes in women who go through our career development series. Their employers tell us that they increase their confidence, that they increase their ability to have difficult conversations. Crucial conversations is part of our curriculum at the Women's Leadership Institute. They understand their leadership style. They lean into their strengths. So we've had about 1,000 women go through this course over the years, and we're really helping companies develop their bench, their pipeline to leadership.
Just briefly, so what is the Women's Leadership Institute and what is the course?
Yeah, so the Women's Leadership Institute is a 501c3. We're about 10 years old, just over 10 years old, and we were founded by, it was Scott Anderson from Zions Bank. It was his idea upon seeing these results from the Wallet Hub study and saying, we've got to do something.
Right.
Yeah, and so we work with companies in two ways. One is through cohort-based training for women. You have the Career Development Series, which is for mid to senior level women. That kicks off in January for the 2026 cohort. We have Rising Leaders for women who are high potential, but they don't have direct reports yet. We have the Political Development Series, which is going right now. 5 of Utah's current sitting female mayors are graduates of the Political Development Series, and it's really preparatory for any office run, anything from school board all the way up to governor, how to gain signatures, how to create your policy statement, how to build coalitions. All of these things we teach, and it's about just preparing women for their next step.
One final quick question. If people want to watch this movie with you tomorrow, where can they go?
Yeah, so we would love to see you tomorrow. It is at the new Larry H. Miller Megaplex down by the ballpark in Daybreak. So not the one at the district, the one right next to the baseball field, the brand new one. It's at 10 a.m., so the movie will go from about 10 to noon, and then we'll have a panel with those Larry H. Miller executives immediately following.
Hey, thank you so much. That was Melanie Jones, CEO of Women's Leadership Institute. We'll be right back.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent from Alpine Home Medical, and I'm humbled to win Utah's Best of State for 2025 for the 15th year in a row. After 28 years, we're all about you. Over 1,700 5-star Google reviews and a 4.8 customer satisfaction score to prove it. We'll keep working hard for you. I've spent this year advocating with lawmakers for better Medicare reimbursement, ensuring you always have the best access to medical supplies you need. From Idaho Falls to St. George, our 11 stores are your home for comfort. When you hear Alpine Home Medical, think of that best of state experience every single time. Visit us online at alpinehomemedical.com. That's alpinehomemedical.com.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
Winter is here, and for many kids here in Utah who don't have warm coats and sturdy shoes, they have to figure out how they're going to get through the upcoming cold months.
KSL Quarters for Christmas has been helping local children for years, turning your donations into warm coats and shoes for kids right here in our own community.
And every dollar you give goes directly toward providing coats and shoes for kids who need them most. It's easy to make a difference. Just go online to kslquarters.com, donate whatever you can, and know that you're helping keep a child warm this winter.
Please join us in spreading a little comfort and a lot of kindness with KSL's Quarters for Christmas.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have leaf filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
To get this special radio offer, go to leaffilter.com/deal for your free gutter inspection today and get up to 30% off. That's leaffilter.com/deal for up to 30% off. leaffilter.com/deal. See representative for warranty details.
Calling all Jazz fans. If you can't wait another second to see stars like Ace Bailey and Lowry Markkanen tear up the court, you're in luck. Tickets are on sale now. Let's go! No matter what you're looking for, the Utah Jazz has your back. With season tickets, mini plans, and single game options available, there's something for everyone. Whatever your schedule or budget, there's a plan for every fan. Don't miss a moment of the action this season. Secure your tickets today at utahjazz.com.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. The Downtown Alliance works year-round to make downtown Salt Lake City a vibrant place to live, work, and celebrate. From dining and arts to community events, their efforts help downtown thrive as Utah's gathering place, especially during the holiday season. Executive Director Dee Brewer joins us with more.
There is something special about downtown Salt Lake City at the holidays. The lights are twinkling and the spirit of the season is alive on every block. You can make a night of it before taking in holiday traditions like Ballet West's The Nutcracker or the Utah Symphony's Messiah Sing-In. Make memories with the whole family at the Gallivan Center Ice Rink and enjoy nostalgic traditions like the holiday windows at City Creek Center and, of course, the spectacular lights at Temple Square. Here's my downtown holiday pro tip. Plan your parking destination before you get on the road. Or you can hop on tracks and let public transit whisk you right into the heart of the city. This season, come experience the magic, the warmth, and the sparkle that makes downtown shine brighter than ever.
The Downtown Alliance works to make every visit memorable, vibrant, and welcoming. Come see what downtown offers this holiday season, full of fun and festive experiences. Learn more about what's happening downtown at downtownslc.org. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
The new Inside Sources.
Well, Mother Nature hasn't been too cooperative this year so far with our ski industry until this last weekend, and then we're starting to see more and more of our mountains starting to open. I remember about a month ago, all these resorts posted their opening dates, and I thought, no way are they going to make it. But Mother Nature sort of came through for us.
Well, they had to delay, but
right. Yes,
some of them. We have with us on the line Jacob Marquardt with Snowbird, and you opened this weekend. Is that right, Jacob?
Yes, guys. Thanks so much for having me on the show. Yesterday, we opened to the public.
So how was it up there?
It was great. The vibes were super high. We had a DJ and a team of Red Bull marketeers handing out free energy drinks. A ton of people were there at the front of the line at Wilbur and Gadzoom to start the day. And I think people were just really excited to get back on the slopes, understandably. You guys said that we had a slow start to the season. That's impacted all of the Utah ski resorts, but it's Utah, and eventually we'll get back to it like we did today.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So what's open at Snowbird? Is the tram open?
The aerial tram is not open as of now. We're pretty close to having top to bottom skiing open. Just need Mother Nature to cooperate a little bit more. Right now we have Gadzoom in Wilbur spinning in Gad Valley, and then also our beginner hill Chickadee.
Are you worried at all about the warmer temperatures that are forecast for this week?
It's just going to slow us down a little bit. The ideal range for snowmaking conditions is between 27 and 14 degrees. That's when our snow guns are able to operate on their full capacity. But we'll still be able to make some snow, just not at quite as high of a flow overnight. And then, of course, all of us across the Utah ski industry and skiers and snowboarders alike will have a keen eye on the long-term weather forecast for snow to hopefully return.
Jacob, what was the turnout like yesterday? Good crowd? Excited crowd? You said there was a lot of buzz there.
Yeah, a ton of buzz. We had a nice long line at the start of the day, but thankfully, because we were able to open 3 lifts, it never felt too congested. Snowbird, when it's fully open, is 2,500 acres of skiable terrain. So we were really able to spread people out even yesterday with just 3 lifts open. As I said, everyone is just really excited to be back on the slopes. It's not the start of the season that we've been used to in past years, but we were still able to make it a great one.
What can you tell our listeners, Jacob, about any changes at Snowbird this year? I know every resort has 1 or 2 things that happen. Anything new at Snowbird?
Yeah, we're really excited for the unveiling of The Nest. That's our new mid-mountain restaurant located in Gad Valley. A lot of people from years past will think of Mid-Gad Restaurant. That was torn down 2 summers ago, and over the past 2 years, we've been working towards building up this new incredible restaurant that people are just going to be astonished when they walk into the first time. It's 145 Swiss-made glass panels with sweeping views of Gad Valley, and it's just going to be an amazing après destination for people.
That was Jacob Marquardt, and thank you for joining us this morning, Jacob, with Snowbird. And it is a mountain that I haven't skied for a couple of years because I move up north and I ski Snow Basin and Powder Mountain. But Snowbird is it's the one when tourists come to Utah, they have to ski Snowbird. You know, everybody, because it's got so many really challenging terrain runs, and it's just one of those places that people think they have to go.
Well, it's
understandably.
That sounds amazing for skiers. It's time to highlight our KSL Kindness Story. It's powered by One Kind Act Today, which is a project by the Somnani Family Foundation. You can learn more at powerofkind.org. Today, we want to discuss the story of a popular YouTuber who announced a comeback video, but as part of an effort to help somebody else.
Here's KSL News Radio's Reagan Edelman with the story.
Luke Nichols came out of a lengthy hiatus to film an Outdoor Boys style video on his friend's YouTube account. His goal? To help a friend.
No, you're not imagining things. This is not my YouTube channel. Some of you guys may have heard that Steven's wife was recently diagnosed with cancer. So right now, Steven's got a lot on his plate, taking care of his wife and his 4 kids. So I thought I might step in and do a little YouTube video for him so he can worry about one thing at a time. And so here I am in the interior of Alaska with no tent, no sleeping bag, and I'm going to be sleeping in the middle of a snowstorm.
In the video, Nichols trudges through the Alaskan wilderness, cooks himself some moose stew, and camps without a tent or a sleeping bag. The video was posted on Steven's My Life Outdoors YouTube channel a couple of days ago and already has millions of views. All ad revenue is going straight to his family. Nichols is a former BYU student, and his channel has over 18 million subscribers. Reagan Edelman, KSL News Radio.
Sounds cold.
It does sound cold. But you know
like
what's interesting? This YouTuber, I was not aware of him, but some of my kids were, and they told me about him. And they also told me that earlier this year, he decided to step back from his very, very popular viral videos in order to protect his family's privacy. But it was something that, like, my 30-year-old son, who's in a wheelchair, who can't go do these outdoor activities, but he was following closely. He was a really good channel and interesting.
And good for him to support a friend and to do something like this. And challenge himself as well. You know, it sounds like a very worth watching.
Yeah, that's right. And I just think it's a really great story that he was willing to come out of this retirement to help a friend. You're right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, tell us where we are today.
All right, today's National Brownie Day. Why? Like, I don't know. Sometimes, shouldn't it be like National Gingerbread Man Day or something like that? I don't know.
Brownie Day.
Today is National Brownie Day. And also on this day, so yesterday, of course, was the 84th anniversary of the bombing of Pearl Harbor. So today, on this day in 1941, the U.S. declared war on Japan. I think I've shared with you, my dad was living in Honolulu. He was 9 days old when Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, and his mom, before she passed away, told all of us kids and grandkids how she remembered trying to hide her little baby under the bed to stay safe from the bombers that were flying overhead.
It's long enough, Holly, that in my lifetime we talked about Pearl Harbor Day
Yeah.
more 20, 30, 40
Yep.
years ago than we do today. It's past, this amount of time has
Yeah.
passed, and so people look at it differently. Nonetheless, it's still
So that was
a significant day.
That
in
was
American
yesterday,
history.
and then today, 1941, of course, is the anniversary of when the U.S. declared war on Japan. There was one woman, Jeanette Rankin. She cast the sole vote against. She was against war and didn't want to see our kids, she said, go and die, which of course they did. Also on this day, in 1980, on this day, John Lennon was shot and killed outside of his Manhattan apartment.
That's sad. I mean,
It was such a weird
think
story,
about
right?
where he would be today
Yeah,
and what he
wow.
would be doing and what he would have done in the last so many years, because Paul McCartney's still around, Ringo Starr's still around, George Harrison passed away. But I mean, they continue to create, they continue to produce.
Yeah.
And I think John Lennon would have done the same
And
thing.
wasn't it a fan that came up and,
Oh, yeah.
and just shot him
It's
point
just
blank,
awful,
right?
right, yeah, for no reason.
I would have been, I was 16-ish, I think, or almost. And I just remember the story like being shocking in its brazenness, I guess.
Yeah, and Lennon was at the top of his game. Of course, the Beatles had split up, but he was doing his solo work, like the song we just heard, Imagine, probably one of the iconic rock and roll songs of all time. And he was, I mean, he would have still been doing stuff today, just knowing John Lennon. He was so creative. Well, when we come back, we're going to turn the time over to midday with Maria Chaleos. She has continuing coverage of the Utah Legislature's special session, which we will talk about more tomorrow, to address the state's policies on.
I'm Maria Chaleos, KSL's top story. Utah's legislature will have a special session tomorrow.